All sports, all the time.
There's heroes and there's legends. Heroes get remembered. Legends never die.
This is the Spoken Podcast.
Hold your ears, folks. It's showtime.
I'm your host, Lance Twidwell.
Man, that kid, he can ball, man. He can ball.
Touchdown, Kansas City!
Patrick freaking Mahomes, baby!
Let's talk some sports because that's what we're here to do.
You are tuned in to the Spoken.
This is the Spoken Podcast. I'm your host, Lance Twidwell, here with my guy, Eddie Ortiz.
Yo.
And Trevor Twidwell.
How's it going?
Guys, we had a full week of news that we were ready to start the show off with. A lot of NFL news, a lot of moves. Teams were very aggressive this year in free agency. This has probably been the craziest free agency spend in just the first week of free agency that we've ever seen at the NFL level. So it's been a very exciting time as a football fan, as a Chiefs fan, to see how aggressive, in particular, the GM of the Chiefs, Brett Veach, has been. And we're definitely going to touch on that tonight. Unfortunately, there has been some news that has developed later in the afternoon today, around 4 p.m. Kansas City Chiefs beat writer for the Kansas City Star, Brooke Pryor, had reported the news that there has been some allegations in an investigation involving Chiefs wide receiver Tyreek Hill. And it has to do with abuse and neglect of a child. And that child has been confirmed as the son of Tyreek Hill. Now, obviously, when we first heard this news, I'll speak for myself and I'll let the guys speak for themselves as well, because that's only fair. But when I heard the news, I was very shocked and very, very shaken by it. Shaken as a fan, obviously, as a Chiefs fan, as a fan of Tyreek Hill, but more than that, as a human being. I don't have any of my own children, but I have a daughter, or I have a sister, an 8-year-old sister, soon to be 9. I have 2 nieces and I have 2 nephews. And so whenever I hear stories like this, regardless if it's a local athlete or an athlete abroad, these stories shake me. And it scares me to no end that this could possibly be the case. So my first initial reaction is, holy shit, I really hope this isn't true that Tyreek Hill would ever do this to his child. And the second one is, of course, when you start to compartmentalize your thoughts. Your thought is, well, do we know it happened for sure? We want to know, because obviously if he did do it, there will be severe repercussions that come with it as a person and as an athlete. Mm-hmm. And for me, my initial reaction was I felt like there's a really strong chance that Tyreek could do it, that he would have done it, unfortunately, because of the fact that he has a track record. And that's not something I like to hold against anybody, but the facts are the facts. He does have a history of domestic violence. And even though I thought that through, and I said, there's no coincidence to me that something like this could happen to his house, and him possibly being involved. There's a very strong chance that's the case. But as we go through time, as we go through a day, and we live in a very knee-jerk reaction society, a society that reads headlines, not articles, we started to understand a little bit more of the news. And what do you know? TMZ, not a half hour later, comes out with their own report. And I'll read a little bit of it so you guys have a better understanding. I'm sure everybody that's listening to this will already be aware of this, but I'm going to read it just for good measure. Kansas City Chiefs superstar Tyreek Hill was named in a police report involving an alleged child abuse incident on March 5th. And the chief said they are aware of the investigation. Look, the details are sketchy right now, but here's what we know. TMZ Reports has obtained a report from the Overland Park Department filed on March 5th in Kansas City, which lists Hill as a person involved in a child abuse neglect case. There's another person named as an involved party, Crystal Espinal, the mother of Hill's child. Neither person is listed as a suspect on the police report. There is a note on the report that the case was closed, cleared, and prosecution declined on March 8th. Another police report listed on March 14th does not list Tyreek, but names Espinal as an involved person in a battery case involving a juvenile victim. Again, no details, and Hill is not listed as a suspect. The Kansas City Chiefs have issued a comment stating, the club is aware of investigation involving Tyreek Hill. We're in the process of gathering information and have been in contact with the league and local authorities. We reached out to cops who referred to us in the district attorney's office, and where a rep told us, quote, we have nothing in our system, unquote. We also reached out to Hill's agent. So far, no word back. So after reading this, and guys, we were talking through this entire thing. We were texting each other, and obviously we were all shaken by it. I think we can all attest to that. Trevor, you have children.
Yeah.
My niece and nephew. Eddie, you're very close to your nephews.
Yep.
Obviously the first thing we're thinking is hopefully, like I said, we're not about to hear that Tyreek Hill is guilty of this, more because of the fact you don't want to believe someone could ever do that to their children. But when this developed, it started to really change my mind. And I have to be so careful about this because these situations are so sensitive. They are so sensitive because you're talking about a child and their injury, an alleged injury of a child sustained through whatever the case may be. So you have to be sensitive in that fact alone. But you almost have to put that aside and have it in its own category and look at the football player as well. Because whether we want to admit it or not in this situation, as sensitive as this is, there is the football side of it, and we are all Chiefs fans. So we have to ask ourselves, if he is guilty of such things, would you be able to justify it and keep him on your team? And if he's not, what does that say about the media? What does that say about our society being so willing to put a name of someone who has been guilty before, but maybe not guilty now, and attaching it to a story in order to get headlines? For me, it's sickening either way. Because if he did it, it makes me sick that he would ever do that to his child. But if it isn't true, it makes me sick that we have people that are so willing to throw people's name under the bus in order to make a story, to grab attention, to get clicks, to make money off of this. And I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know Brooke Pryor personally, and I'm not going to accuse her of anything, just like I'm not going to accuse Tyreek Hill of anything either. But I will tell you this, that if it comes out that he is not guilty in this situation, I have to almost ask that Brooke Pryor would step down and resign from her position, because this is defamation of character at the highest degree.
Absolutely, man.
So I've run my mouth enough. I've been very bottled up. Eddie, you know this. We got here at the same time. Trev, you just got here, and we are in the KC Beard Co. studios. And we were I didn't want to even have to talk about this and even address it, but we have to. Yeah. And this is a very serious situation. We're not going to sit here and rehash on it all night long, but I've given you my thoughts. My thoughts are I'm waiting for the facts, but I'm going to be honest with you. As it stands right now, it does not look like Tyreek Hill has done anything wrong, but I'm not going to take his side until we know what the facts are. Eddie, what are your thoughts on this?
Man, I would have to agree with your thoughts. There's not enough information for me to go off of, other than all these reports and these two police callings or whatever they did. There's just not much to go off of. If it comes down that it is true that they're making this stuff up, or I mean, not making it up, but if they're just there putting his name somewhere where it doesn't belong just because he did it in the past, you know what I mean? Just to get those clickbaits, like you said, it's sickening. And I don't want to put Tyreek in that position just now because I don't know any details. I want to know more before I can give out my actual thoughts on what I feel, what I think should happen. Like I said, I don't have enough information for me to put my thoughts out there just yet.
Yeah, I mean, with there being two different reports on two different dates, it's just a little odd. One that's closed, and then a newer one on the 14th, I believe, yesterday. I just don't know if it's the same issue, and it's being brought back. Because that's a good week, and a half of or plus of time in between those two reports. And one he was involved in, and then this one he's not even on. He's just being questioned. Like I said, I don't really know what to make of it, but being looking at it from the humane side of it all, and being a father of two children myself, if he is guilty of any of this, if he did, in fact, inflict pain into a child and break this child's arm, or whatever the accusations are or come out to be, he absolutely deserves everything that's coming to him. Whether it's him never being able to play the sport that he loves and making the money that was going to be, guaranteed to him or not, or him just being welcome into a normal society again, because we don't have time for people like that.
Yeah.
And this is not me casting judgment on him or his character, because that's what's going on right now, and it's not fair to him right now. As far as we know, it's not fair to him right now. But as of right now, I'm not making a stand on any which way. But right now, it's really, really murky. People are jumping to conclusions, of course, reading headlines and jumping to those conclusions. I just want to find out what the actual story is, what he's being questioned about, who was in fact, is the kid actually hurt? We don't know anything right now, and I don't want to go on too long about this, but yeah, I mean, it's a shaky subject just for him this would be him being a repeat offender. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much where I'm at right now. I'm just kind of waiting it out, obviously, just like everyone else, not jumping to conclusions. So
yeah, we definitely don't want to jump to conclusions because, like I said, there's a severity on either side of this, whether he's guilty or innocent. And what I mean by that,
terrible timing.
Yeah, and because if we're gonna look, because social media is very powerful in our society, and in our culture. And the thing I noticed is that according to what I had seen on Twitter, a lot of people were tweeting at me photos of his child on Snapchat just last night at 8:40,
right? Yeah,
where his son did not have a cast on him. And that's the crazy thing, is that the initial story was that his son had a broken arm, had a cast on as of late. Yeah. And that got quickly recanted.
I also seen people commenting, because I like to read the comments sometimes, because I know people are like, they'll follow to the T of their social media, and people are like posting screenshots of him being out of town,
right?
Like the last couple days.
San Diego.
Yeah, and
San Diego Zoo.
And it's like, they were just at the zoo in San Diego. Now it's just like, I mean, I'm not saying in between those snaps and stuff.
Yeah, it's a 3-hour
things
flight.
Could happen,
yeah.
Right. So, I mean, I'm not cutting that out of reality. That could definitely, they can go home and think something could have happened. But, yeah, I don't know, man. I think it's odd. Like, the timeline is kind of odd right now to how things happened and what actually happened. And, with him not even being a suspect.
Yeah. And here's I'm going to give a little shout out to a guy. His name's Jared on Twitter, at OShowKC Jared. He really broke this down really well a couple of hours ago. He said, here are the current deets as reported by KCTV5. March 5th, a police report filed naming both Tyreek Hill and Crystal Espinal for a suspected child abuse, declined to prosecute. Yesterday, March 14th, a police report filed naming only Crystal Espinal for suspected battery of a juvenile. Then he releases the police report on March 8th.
Right. Prosecution
was again declined on that. He was involved in a brief investigation 10 days ago. The case was closed without filing charges. He is not named in the current ongoing investigation regarding the juvenile battery. So, although, again, this initially looked awful on Tyreek Hill, because, again, it's his history for me.
Yeah.
It's the history of the person. If this would have been some guy on our team that never had any history of this, I would probably give him the benefit of the doubt to start with. With Tyreek Hill, I didn't. And it's not because I didn't want to. I don't like the guy. I love the guy. But the fact is that when you have that on your back and it's there forever, you're not going to get the benefit of the doubt, at least for most people. And so we need to see the facts first, but I'm not mad at others for feeling the way they do initially because of this.
Yeah, and it's just the way it looks too. It's right. Like, someone being busted for PEDs and then years later being linked to some kind of PED sting, or a steroid sting or something like that.
Right.
So it's a bad look, and it's extremely bad timing, especially for him and his well-being and his life overall.
Yeah.
Yes.
But if he is involved with it, which it doesn't sound like right now, it is what it is.
There's just too many stories out there that we don't know where this is actually leading. Until a good source comes out and confirms either story, or comes out and tells us exactly what happened. I mean, we don't know. We just can't bash Tyreek because of his past. I mean, I get it, but because of his past, we can't just put it into conclusion like, yes, he did it. He broke his arm. He broke his son's arm. He needs to go.
Yeah.
Like, we can't do that. We can't judge him just yet.
We're all skeptics right now.
Yes.
That's what it comes down to right now. We're all skeptics. We're
Yeah, like I said, I don't want to put any. I don't want to take a stand just yet, because I don't know. I don't know anything pretty much.
Yeah.
There's nothing out there for me to go off of.
And I think it's a little unfair to automatically associate this or compare it to the Kareem Hunt situation, because of the fact that Kareem Hunt didn't have any known issues before that, as far as, police being involved with things like that. Later on, there was things that developed that we found out, about him being in downtown, getting in fights, things like that. But
it's funny how that works.
It's tough to really associate the two. Now, I know the timing is crazy because it's only been within the year that these two guys have, had this situation. But with Tyreek's, it's a very particular situation for him because of the fact that we're talking about a guy that was a couple months away from becoming the richest wide receiver in NFL history.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to, in no way am I defending him, but the timing is really bad because for me, if he was to do something this stupid, it would be before he knew that he was about to get, a fat check.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I'm not excusing it. Maybe he really is that dumb.
Yeah.
And if he is, then hey,
Well, I mean,
whatever comes to you, like you said, Trevor,
yeah.
he has it coming.
And some guys like him, he's a guy that's been in anger management for legitimate reasons.
Yes.
Meaning he has impulsive issues. Meaning when he loses his cool, who knows what can happen? We know guys like that are good dudes, but once they hit a point and they break, anything could happen.
Yeah.
It could be that like you said, we don't know him personally. We don't know how he is really underneath it all.
Yeah.
Especially, man, being from someone who's married and has had, battles and has been, anytime you're in a serious relationship, there's going to be issues like that and people handle them differently. So him having that history with her, having past history with her in these similar situations, it's fair to cast judgment on him right now, but we have to, collect the facts and then make our judgment.
Yeah. And I will say, just anybody out there that's going to listen to this podcast, if we don't know exclusively what happened by the time this is released, what I will caution or what I will ask of you as a person, as a fan, or just as a person in general, don't jump to conclusions. We've all made those mistakes. We jump to the conclusions. We say things that end up being wrong and they end up making us look bad in a situation like this, whether you're on one side or the other.
Right.
Make sure that you wait until the facts get out there. And I think I can confidently say that that's where us three are at right now. And I will make a mention real quick that we have a very special guest on tonight. Our brother Shaggy Shane Williams is joining us tonight. So we're definitely going to get his thoughts on this matter as well. We have a lot of other Chiefs topics to address as well. We have a lot of stuff to talk about, period. A lot of NFL tonight.
It's going to be a fun night.
Yes, it is. And I'm glad you said that, Eddie, because I don't want tonight to be very, somber. I don't want it to be sad because there's a lot of stuff to be excited about as a Chiefs fan. But this is the most important conversation in our city right now when it comes to Chiefs-related anything. We had to address this at the forefront because, again, whichever side this is on, someone is wrong. Someone is terribly wrong. Whether he was wrong or whether the people that are reporting this to get their clicks were wrong, that someone's going to get a black eye on this one. And as far as what you said, Trevor, with the Tyreek Hill situation, if he does, in fact, if we find out he is guilty of this, I'm usually somebody, I'm not usually, I'm almost always someone who believes in second chances. Yeah. That you should be able to get a redemption story out of your life. If you do something wrong, you do your time or whatever the case is, and you find your way back. I was the biggest supporter of Michael Vick. Yeah. I love dogs, and what he did was horrible, but he did his 2 years, got out, made a redemption story of his life. Tyreek Hill to this point has redeemed himself. Well, he had that horrible situation in college and then redeemed himself and became one of the biggest superstars in football.
Him making the league was his second chance.
Exactly.
It's you get 0 strikes from there on.
Exactly. So with that said, as I said, I'm 100% with people getting second chances. I ain't said nothing about no third chances. Yeah. Because for me, if this is true and he hurt his son that way, or he did that at all, if the NFL says we're done with you, I'm not going to debate them on that. Yeah. Because for me, you had your second chance. You had your opportunity to make right what was wrong. And if you cannot live through that, if you cannot standardize that in yourself, you're not fit, you're not suitable for what they should represent as a league. Am I saying that you shouldn't have the freedom to be if you're out of jail, you can go out there and make a living. But I don't believe that you should be able to do what you love after you've had multiple opportunities to make right. So that's where I'll stand on that. I'm definitely going to get Shaggy's thoughts on this as well. And we're going to come back in a minute because, like I said, I wanted to dedicate this first segment to our thoughts, us three right here, because it's very important to me that I know, because we did not talk about this.
Nope.
I made sure I told you guys, I don't want to know your thoughts on this. We can talk about the facts, but I needed to know what you guys thought here. That's what we are about here, is authenticity. I wanted to know what you guys thought about this. I'm glad we got this out here. Yeah. And I'm looking forward to hearing people's thoughts. Again, for all we know, news is going to drop in the middle of this. So we're going to react to it as we know what we know. And this is what we currently know. We're going to keep updating as this goes on. But when we get back, we're going to have our guy, Shaggy Shane Williams, the big-time guy, the guy that you all know and you all love. He's been a great friend of mine for years, and I am so glad he's finally getting on our show. We're here in the KC Beard Co. studios. When we come back, we're getting his thoughts on this and a few other topics Chiefs-related. And we'll be back. We'll be back for that after this. Located in the historic Westport district, Modern Man Supply Company is your Kansas City's new home for men's retail. From apparel to pomade and home goods to beard care, they offer a wide range of men's products from independent companies from around the world. Follow them at Modern Man Supply Company on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. The Spoken Podcast, back at it again. I am Lance Twidwell, your host, here with my guy Trevor Twidwell.
What's going on, guys?
And we have a very, very special guest in this segment. A guy that, well, needless to say, has been a great friend, an amazing fan, lifelong fan, a fan, quite honestly, guys, and I don't want to give his age away, but he's been a fan longer than I've been alive, and there's a lot of respect to that. He's seen all the heartbreak that this team has had to offer over the years. I believe he's been at the last 6 or 7 Chiefs playoff losses, but I don't want to reminisce on all the bad things. Shaggy Shane has definitely, he's definitely made a name for himself amongst the Chiefs community. And what I mean by that is everybody knows him and respects him because of the detail and the dedication he has to his craft, which is making sure that people always know what's going on in Chiefs Kingdom. And so I got a lot of respect for this guy. Even if we weren't close friends, I would definitely love watching his show, and I always enjoy it anyway. We talk just about every day, and he's more of a friend. He's actually my brother, so I'm really glad to have him on. Shaggy, thank you so much for coming on tonight, man. How you doing today?
I am doing great. It's great to be in the plush studios of KC Beard Company.
Oh, yeah.
Breaking down the recent KC Chiefs moves, news, rumors, cries, screams, allegations, ceremonies, premeditations, menstruations.
Seances.
What is going on in Chiefs Kingdom? Brother Lance, it is great to be and on and above and into the spoken.
You got all the angles on that one. I like it, man. I like it. So, Shaggy, obviously, on a serious note, we didn't really plan on the show starting off the way it did. I'm not going to rehash on it. Trevor and I and Eddie already gave our thoughts on the matter. You're fully aware of what's going on. What are your thoughts right now as we currently know it to be? What is your thoughts on the Tyreek Hill situation?
First off, when my phone started blowing up at about 4:30 this afternoon, I understood the concerns because just today, Kareem Hunt was for the Cleveland Browns was notified that he had an 8-game suspension. Mm-hmm. Many fans worldwide were curious to see what Kareem Hunt was going to happen. So when this news broke today for Tyreek Hill, I understood the concern. I understood the frustration. His past, his character was brought to light when the Kansas City Chiefs drafted him in the 5th round. I did a post-draft show after that on YouTube, and it was probably one of my shows that had more dislikes than likes because I was critical of the signing. Needless to say, he's came here and he's been a stand-up individual. As it currently stands, I know you guys touched it on your first segment before I arrived at this wonderful podcast. As right now, his name is taken out of the report. Am I correct?
Yes, you are correct.
As a suspect, yes.
As a suspect, and the child's arm wasn't broken, and
that's been recanted. Yes.
So the child's arm's not broken.
Yeah, there was the initial report was that his arm was broken, and then they showed pictures from his Snapchat from the night before this all came out, which was last night. That there was no broken arm. The child was playing around, having a good old time. They were watching Netflix together. So that's been recanted by the initial reporter, Brooke Pryor from the Kansas City Star.
So who broke the story?
It was the Kansas City Star. Yes.
So the Kansas City Star broke the story and put it out to the masses worldwide. And now Kansas City Chiefs is in full-on panic mode. Mm-hmm. I will say this. Let's all take a deep breath and relax until we get the facts. Like I said, I know Chiefs fans are screaming concerned. I know Chiefs fans are scared because when the Kareem Hunt news broke in November of last year, 2 hours later, he was cut.
Yep.
But there was damning evidence. TMZ did everything they could to make sure we all knew that. So with the situation, it sounds like it's backing up off of Tyreek Hill. So let's let the situation run its course.
I'm really glad you brought that up about needing to relax because I think there is a certain level of anxiousness with Chiefs fans because, like you mentioned, the Kareem Hunt situation being still so fresh in our minds and in our hearts because a lot of fans loved him. And let's be honest, he's a damn good running back. But also because of what we talked about in the first segment, Tyreek does have a past. We do know that he has a past in this type of allegation. So there is that cause for concern. So I understand why people would be so quick, even if it is wrong to do. I understand why there is that initial surge because, like I said, on our first segment. I was one of those people, right? I'm like, you got to be kidding me. He really did this right now. Months from being the richest wide receiver ever.
Right.
You know, that's
Days.
very
I would say weeks or days.
right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
So
yeah.
the point is that he was on the way. So why would you do that? And so my initial reaction was negative. But as like we talked about, as the news has started to develop and as it continues to develop, and our guy Eddie is looking right now for any breaking news. And when it comes, if it does come, we will stop the show and talk about it. But I think that there is obviously a lot of headlining, headline reading more than article reading, understanding the
a
source.
lot of jumps to conclusions for sure. I mean, that's
that's understandable because the Kansas City Chiefs fans fear.
Yeah,
a lot of fans think, and I don't want to spend much time talking about Kareem Hunt, but I will say this: there's some Chiefs fans that believe, well, if we had Kareem Hunt, we probably would have went to the Super Bowl. That's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
But I understand the Chiefs fear, but as seconds turn minutes and minutes becomes hours, and we found out about this Tyreek Hill situation 4 hours ago, I'm willing to put it in the back burner because it seems like it's backing off.
Yeah.
Quickly.
Well, now that we've addressed all that, and like I said, I don't want to spend the entire show talking about this because we don't know the fact. We don't know all the facts yet. And quite frankly, we have a lot of news to get to. A lot of good stuff. Well, hopefully good stuff. And so Shane, that's why I'm glad you're on here, man, because you got a great following, and a lot of people have been asking you about these questions about, the moves that the Chiefs have been making, whether it's the cuts, whether it's the trades, or whether it's the signings. Now, Shane, we can go down the list of all the things that have happened. We can go down it real quick. The Chiefs have cut Justin Houston. The Chiefs released Eric Berry. The Chiefs traded Dee Ford. They signed Tyrann Mathieu. They've signed other players like Okafor from the Saints. They've made some moves, and they've been very aggressive with these moves. Shane, what are your thoughts so far on the moves that the Chiefs have made, and how do you differentiate between Brett Veach and John Dorsey? Which one would you rather have right now? And also give the people a little bit of the story that you and I encountered with Clay Windler in 2017's training camp with one Brett Veach.
First off, the defense, as I mentioned on my Shaggy Shane YouTube, immediately following the AFC Championship game, it needed to be completely rebuilt. It needed to be completely scrapped. It needed to be completely trashed. And thank God it happened. I know fans are upset and they are scared about losing Justin Houston, Eric Berry, and Dee Ford. I understand the concerns, but it had to change. Yep. The last time the Kansas City Chiefs had a home playoff loss and they gave up 38 points. Let's face it, the New England Patriots, if there was an NFL rule to kick the extra point in the overtime, it would have been 38-31. The last time the Kansas City Chiefs lost a home playoff game, 38-31, was against the Indianapolis Colts 15 years ago. Immediately after that game, Carl Peterson demanded Dick Vermeil to fire then defensive coordinator Greg Robinson. Gunther Cunningham was brought back. And everybody remembers Gunther Cunningham's history from the 1990s and his 2 years as a head coach. We were thrilled. We thought, yes, Gunther Cunningham is coming back to be the defensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs. He's going to bring Greg Robinson's defense. He's going to take it to a new level. Gunther Cunningham is going to bring this defense back to a new level. Well, what happened in 2004? In the second round, the Kansas City Chiefs drafted Junior Seavey. So they took a defensive tackle in the second round. What they did with that roster, Gunther Cunningham took the 2003 roster, which had Eric Hicks as defensive end along with Eddie Freeman and Ryan Sims. Linebackers were Kavika Mitchell in the middle with Scott Fujita, Donnie Edwards, and his cornerbacks were Dexter McCleon and Eric Warfield. Shenard Hartz and Jerome Woods brought up the back end of the safety. Gunther Cunningham had to work with Greg Robinson's defense, and we thought, well, that's all we need to do is just get Gunther Cunningham. Gunther Cunningham took over the 2004 defense, which was basically the 2003 roster, and in week one, Quentin Griffin, a Denver Broncos running back, gashed Gunther Cunningham's new defense, and we thought, oh, man, this sucks. Quentin Griffin rushed for over 240 yards, and in the 2004, the Kansas City Chiefs finished 7-9 and missed the playoffs. Gunther Cunningham did not get his players because he had Greg Robinson's players. When you change defensive coordinators, what you need to do is let the defensive coordinator and get a clean slate.
Yep.
Let's let it go, folks. Let's let it go. With Steve Spagnuolo's team, what he has to do is come here, revamp the defense, get his players, get his scheme, get his regime. Let that take over and guide the new era for the Chiefs defense. That's what we need to do going forward.
I 100% agree. And here he's laying the line down with all the details. I really appreciate that, man.
Yeah.
And very few people can remember like you do. I mean, we talk all the time, dude. And you're always talking about, 3rd and 7 on the 42-yard line in 1993.
You just broke my heart and rebuilt it like 5 times.
In week 4, like this, this is why I love having you on, Shane, because this is what we need to hear, man. And I'm really glad too, because I feel like a lot of Chiefs fans have been very reluctant for change, even though they know that change was necessary. They knew that Bob Sutton needed to go. Mm-hmm. So when he went, they thought, oh, this is great. We're changing the scheme. But once they saw that the new players needed to be added and old players needed to be removed, all of a sudden people got a little, wait a second. They didn't understand that with a new scheme, with a new DC, comes new players. Yeah. So we were in full support of that. And when I say we, I mean the show. We were totally in support of that. I know you've been as well. Clay's been in as well. But I understand where people are coming from because they're afraid that you let go of good players, maybe they'll go on and contribute to somewhere else that can actually end up being a benefit for somebody that could take out the Chiefs in the playoffs. So I understand all that, but you can't worry about that.
Correct.
You have to worry about where the team is now, where they're headed to. And we got, like you, in your own words, Patrick freaking Mahomes, baby.
Yeah,
we have that. That's the difference maker. That's why guys like Tyrann Mathieu decided not to go back to Houston and go to Kansas City because he knew he had that guy on his side. This is actual quote of his stating.
He made it very clear.
I don't want to play against this guy. I want to play with him. So that's the beautiful thing about what we got here now in Kansas City is the fact that we have the difference maker. Mm-hmm. And I'll be honest with you. Tyrann Mathieu was not even on my board. And we talked about this. The reason why this is because I was so certain he was staying in Houston.
Yeah.
All the reports out of Houston were saying that, he's staying. There's no question about it. And then all of a sudden we hear that he's signing a $42 million deal, $26.5 million guaranteed for 3 years in Kansas City. I mean, I'm losing my crap, man. It's amazing. So this is the kind of stuff I like to see. Now, I want to get both you, Trevor, and Shane's thoughts on a few of these moves. Now, despite the fact that we all, I think, can agree that Dee Ford needed to be traded or they needed to try to trade for him, a lot of people didn't like what they got in return. What I mean by that is the Chiefs. They got a second-round pick in the 2020 draft for San Francisco. Now, you can say that's probably going to be a very valuable pick. You can also say that the Chiefs are never going to see that. They're never going to see that pick. They're going to use it to trade up in the draft. But what were your thoughts on it? Were you okay? And I'm going to start with you, Trev. Okay. What were your thoughts on that move? Did you agree with what they got back in return?
Oh, yeah. I think we fleeced them. I think the Niners are silly for giving, especially extending him like that. I think that pick is going to go directly to flipping it and moving up to the first round. Top 10 picks, I believe, is probably what we're going to try to do. I think Veach has proven to be an aggressive GM, a young GM. So I think that's what we're probably going to do. And I was all for the trade. He's shown us 1 year of productivity and health. And for him to go over there and get extended like that I'm glad someone else did that and gave him that much money. So
I really like it. I know a lot of people were worried about it because they wanted the 36th pick from the 49ers and understand the Chiefs' concerns why they would want that because it's a sexy pick. Mm-hmm. But the Chiefs had, like going back to what I said earlier, Spagnuolo had to work it into his system. And if Dee Ford doesn't work in his 4-3 system, it's a move you had to make. And at the time, it freed up, $7.5, $14 million? What did it free up specifically for Ford?
I believe it actually freed up more than $15 million.
Yeah,
if I'm not wrong.
If it freed up cap space, you got a second-round draft pick, an extra one in next year's draft, as well as this, it does free up the ability to move forward. And to get on to the point of John Dorsey versus Brett Veach is something that I wanted to touch on, because John Dorsey, when he came to Kansas City, we were excited, but there's some things that he did immediately from the jump that when he took over 6 years ago this week, John Dorsey made Dwayne Bowe one of the highest paid wide receivers in the league. John Dorsey made Dustin Colquitt the highest paid in the league and Ryan Suckup the highest kicker in the league. He also he maxed out the cap later on, which you and I have alluded to on the Shaggy Shane Show numerous times, by losing the negotiations with Justin Houston and Eric Berry. Brett Veach is getting ahead of this. And if he felt like, if I'm in a situation with Dee Ford, it's going to put me in a situation later where I can't extend Tyreek Hill or Chris Jones, I need to take care of this cap space now because John Dorsey lost those negotiations. John Dorsey put the Chiefs in cap hell. And a lot of people on social media are giving John Dorsey credit, like, wow, look how John Dorsey's doing with the look what he's doing in Cleveland. Oh my gosh, John Dorsey was the man that brought the Browns, their quarterback, and Patrick Mahomes, and I just think, we talked to Brett Veach ourselves. As I mentioned on my Shaggy Shane Show, Brett Veach came up to us and no, we don't have any media ties. We don't have any media credentials. We don't hang with Brett Veach. We were on the east side of the field doing the Shaggy Shane training camp recap show, July 31st, 2017. And Lance and I just got done talking, and Brett Veach came up to me, Clay, and Lance, and it was cool as can be. He commented on Clay Windler's number 15 jersey and said, "Man, I really like that jersey." I said, "Hey, thanks, Brett. Thanks for coming up and talking to us." And I said, "That number 15 jersey is the reason why us three are standing here." And he said, "Get ready, because that number 15 is going to surprise some people." And he later on, he went into Patrick Mahomes coming to Kansas City was 2 years in the making. So I decided to play dumb. I thought, well, shoot, if Brett Veach is going to come here and start talking, I'm going to be silly and kind of play dumb and say, when Brett Veach says, I responded immediately to that to saying, "What do you mean it's 2 years in the making? It means we got to wait 2 years for Patrick Mahomes to play?" He said, "No, bringing Patrick Mahomes to Kansas City was 2 years in the making. I watched him play at Texas Tech for 2 years. I scouted him." And Brett Veach didn't have to tell three Chiefs amigos about that, but he laid it on the line. And what did you think of that, Brett Veach talking to us, Lance?
Oh, it was pretty surreal, I'll be honest, because I'm going to be real with you guys. I didn't recognize him.
I'm a little jelly, to be honest.
I didn't recognize him. He was the new GM right then and there. Like, I didn't really know his face. I knew the name.
Just recognize those cabs.
Yeah, I knew he came from. I knew he came from the Eagles organization. I knew all that, but I did not know the guy. And so that was it was very revealing, because you had said, "Dude, that's the new GM of the Chiefs, guys." Yeah. Like, you got me all amped up, and I'm like, man, this guy really just like laid it down for us, And I know you say you don't know him that well, but you like to post that photo you two together. So I think a lot of people think you guys are buddies. So
I get that all the time.
I'm just throwing that out there, Shane. But I think you're right. I mean, the thing about John Dorsey that upsets me is I think he's so smart. The guy knows football. He knows talent. You can't debate that. Dude knows talent.
Yeah.
But he is so, and I mean so bad with the cap. Really, really bad.
Mm-hmm.
And he put us in a cap hell.
I mean, look what he did with Justin Houston and Eric Berry. Talk about losing those negotiations.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that was that was tough to swallow for a while. But as far as Brett Veach, I mean, going into this offseason, I was very critical of him. I thought that last year's draft wasn't very good. I thought he had a lot of problems on his hands. I don't think he did very well, given he didn't have a first-round pick because of the Patrick Mahomes trade.
Right.
I'm giving him that much cushion. But I felt like Breeland Speaks didn't really fit the system at the time.
He's going to this year.
Yeah, and that's the beautiful thing, is now that's working.
Sir.
But at the time, you can understand why I had my problems with it initially. But with that considered, I think that Brett Veach has shown us that he's got what it takes to be a GM, at least to this point.
Well, I think he recognized, too, that I think, in like the way I recognize it and I see it, why it was so easy for us to say goodbye to him was, one, he has no bill of health at all, and he's proven nothing until the time he was due to get his money, he showed out. But I think the majority of his success came because of the uprising of Chris Jones. I think Chris Jones being that guy in the middle, pushing the pocket in the middle, allowed Dee Ford and Justin Houston to have as good a years as they had.
Yeah.
Because we'd seen them before Chris Jones, or before we had a middle bull rush up the middle, before we had Chris Jones being Chris Jones, they weren't getting to the quarterback. Yeah, we led in sacks, but it showed nothing. Our defense was still nearly dead last. So we're getting all those sacks for nothing. I think he was carried by Chris Jones a lot. I mean, I'm not totally discrediting all his success. He had a good year. He got his money. Congrats. But I do believe that a lot of his success came from the back of Chris Jones.
Chris Jones is the man.
Yes.
He's the heart and soul. He's the new foundation. He's what the defense is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let's look at Chris Jones. What happened when the Chiefs were up 21-3 against the Tennessee Titans in halftime? The very first play of the second half, Chris Jones is out the rest of the game. We all know what happens. We couldn't stop the freaking running game of the Titans. They won 22-21. Late in the third quarter, the AFC Championship game, Chris Jones injures his ankle. Yep. He tries to come back and return. Chris Jones did not play in overtime. Right. What happened in overtime? 3 3rd-and-10s. Tom Brady completed because there was no pass rush. I know Bob Sutton deserves a lot of that blame because he didn't look.
He didn't adjust.
Yeah, he didn't adjust. He didn't say, "I don't have Chris Jones out there. I'm going to blitz the safety." Did he do that? No.
Nope.
He stayed to his same vanilla form, but. Getting back to the point, Chris Jones is important, and get back to the point about Brett Veach. I believe Brett Veach will recognize that Chris Jones is the foundation of this defense, and will give him the contract extension that he does deserve right now. And I think Brett Veach will take care of that. He won't get in a situation where he'll tag him and wait till his final year where he asks for an insane price, which John Dorsey would lose in those negotiations. I believe that it is time that we take care of Chris Jones.
Well, and I'm glad you bring that up because I think it's now a foregone conclusion that Chris Jones is going to get his money. A lot to do, I think, with the Tyreek Hill news, regardless of what the outcome is. I think that they're going to probably wait on that one a little bit now. And I do think Chris Jones is more than deserving, having the sack amount that he had at the position he had.
Yeah.
That's
was
almost
11 straight games.
10 11. He set the NFL record. So yeah, Chris Jones is by far
He is our Aaron Donald.
If I'm giving anybody money on this team right now, besides Patrick Mahomes, it's Chris Jones.
Absolutely.
Because he is the heart and soul of that defense now officially. Yeah. And real quick, get a couple thoughts, and we can roll into the next segment with this if that's okay. But getting your thoughts on Justin Houston and Eric Berry, what they meant to this team, and if you could encapsulate Eric Berry in particular. What would you kind of describe the Eric Berry era as in Kansas City? Because for me, it's very tough to understand it. It's very hard to put it into words because there's so much good. Especially, I always think when I think of the highlight of Eric Berry's career, I always think of 2016, coming back from cancer, winning comeback player of the year, an all-pro safety, having probably his greatest season of his career, and then the next season tearing his Achilles within 2 quarters of that first week. And it's been downhill ever since to the point they had to cut him. Shane, Trev, you guys give me your thoughts. What is Shane, starting with you? What are your thoughts on Eric Berry in particular? And if you want to throw in a little Justin Houston action, definitely do that too.
Eric Berry's first class. Loved it when we drafted him. He was the heart and soul of the defense. He was the leader. He was the vocal leader. Everybody looked to him as being a leader, and that's something we have to depend on with Tyrann Mathieu. And that's what's scary. You lose Justin Houston and Eric Berry on this team. Who's going to be the leaders? Right now it is Tyrann Mathieu. Mm-hmm. Can Chris Jones step up and be that later? But get to the point specifically to answer your questions about Eric Berry. First class, amazing, great guy on and off the field. It was terrible when he had cancer because you prayed for him and won the best for him because you never want something like that to happen to anyone. But when it's your team, you definitely put your feelings for the team on hold, but he did come back, and it was great that he came back and played at such a high level going into 2016. I wanted him to have that deal because he had to have that contract, but John Dorsey kind of screwed that deal up, but we've already been over that. I'm going to miss Eric Berry, the leader. I'm going to miss Eric Berry, the defensive team captain, but he wasn't the same. He wasn't the same when you looked at the AFC Championship game. Gronkowski schooled him. He shot the wrong gap on the 11-yard touchdown run with 3 minutes and 38 seconds left on 4th and 1 at the 11. And there was a hole a mile wide for the running back for the Patriots to run it in. It broke my heart to see him play so bad because during player introductions, when the Chiefs introduced Justin Houston and Eric Berry back-to-back, I started tearing up because I thought this is what we waited for our entire life.
Right.
But I'm going to miss Eric Berry, the leader. I'm going to miss Eric Berry, the safety. I wish him the best going forward, but it was time to move on.
Yeah, I mean, plain and simple, you nailed it on the head. His production didn't match the pay. We're saving $9.5 million by letting him walk, and that can definitely go towards bringing in Tyrann Mathieu, who I think is barely about to be 27 years old, or 27, right?
He'll be 27 by the season,
right?
By the season's beginning.
A kid that's production has been out the roof, and when he's healthy, he's an absolute star. But yeah, Eric Berry, as much as I loved him, I mean, I got a whole list of all his accolades that he's produced for the Chiefs. As it's 5-time Pro Bowler, 3-time first team All-Pro, NFL Comeback Player of the Year, 2010 All-Rookie Team, NFL Top 10 Player, 2011, 2004, 2016, 2017, 2-time AFC Defensive Player of the Week, 440 tackles, 55 sacks, 14 interceptions, 3 forced fumbles, 50 pass deflections, 5 defensive touchdowns, most solo tackles in a single game in 2014, which was 14 in a single game. I mean, the guy has been the heart and soul of this defense for, years. It sucks to see him go. It's an end of an era. I have his jersey. He's one of my all-time favorite Chiefs. Loved him since we drafted him. I wanted him so bad, and I was so happy when we drafted him. But it's time to move on.
Yeah.
This production's been down, and it is what it is. And it's time for a new young core to come in here and build Beach's team. So
yeah, and I know we're almost up against it. We'll talk a little bit more. Obviously, we're going to talk more Chiefs in the next segment, but I was one that actually wanted both these guys to be extended when they did. I believe that Justin Houston's contract situation was done poorly, and again, this is on John Dorsey and what we just talked about with his mishaps. I was very happy they paid him, and of course, he gets injured. Ever since that knee injury in Buffalo, it was never the same. So it really sucked. But if we can go back again, I would have paid Justin Houston again because what he brought to the team, the fact this guy was all team, all heart. I love that. You can use that as a cliche. Doesn't matter. This guy was incredible while he was here. 4th all time in Chiefs sacks. This is a guy that I will always remember and I will always love. And I always use the hashtag pay 50 when he got his money because I was so happy he got paid because these are people. Yeah. And he worked his ass off to get what he got. Mm-hmm. Eric Berry, same thing. When we drafted him, I believe it was 5th overall in the 2010 draft. Correct me if I'm wrong, Shane. Right. I was very, very excited because this guy was a freak out of Tennessee. Mm-hmm. And I knew he was going to bring some nasty to this defense. And I love, Taylor, yes, and I love nasty on D. I love that. I love seeing guys come in here and hit people hard. And that's what he did. And he showed no remorse. And he came in here guns blazing day one. Mm-hmm. Ultimate leader at 22 years old, 21 years old, actually. Guns blazing. And I loved him from the first day.
He's a Chief legend, man.
Unfortunately, injuries and his body gave up on him. Yeah. Cancer tried to take him, not as a football player, as a human. He fought back, and I will forever respect him for that. Yep. The tough thing for me, though, as a fan of Eric Berry and as a Chiefs fan, is this. I feel like after that Achilles tear in New England, it wasn't just his Achilles that left him that day. I think a lot of his, I'll just say it, his spirit. Mm-hmm. His spirit left him. Exactly.
It's a psyche thing, man. It's some mental block.
And that's what unfortunately I'm going to have to remember about Eric Berry is because it's the what have you done for me lately? Right. And as much as I love the guy, as much as I love the player, unfortunately I will have to always remember the statement, it wasn't in my spirit to come back. Yeah. And that is what I unfortunately will have to remember. So as much as I love him, I'm going to have to unfortunately rack this up in the bittersweet department. And that's where we're going to have to leave it. And you know what? The way I see it is as much as I would love to see those guys win a ring in Kansas City, as much as I would love to see those guys in the Ring of Honor, whether it happens or not, I guess they'll just have to do with being in the parade next February. So we're going to come back in a second, guys, because we have a lot to talk about. I'm here in the Casey Beardco studios with my guy, Trevor Twidwell, Eddie Ortiz, and our special guest, Shaggy Shane Williams from the Shaggy Shane Show. When we get back, we're going to talk a lot about this Tyrann Mathieu situation, this signing, because this is a big, big deal for Kansas City, for the Chiefs, and the future. Not just the present, the future of the Kansas City Chiefs defense. We'll get to that after this. Casey Hardgoods is the brainchild of local Kansas City degenerate Scott Reinerson. Born from a passion of old materials and custom designs, specializing in reclaimed wood, burned art and signs, and upcycled leather wallets and accessories. Follow Casey Hardgoods on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Wasteland Society, an apparel brand inspired by the underground, the weird, the youth, post-punk, 80s and 90s pop culture, and the idea of living life on the opposite end of the spectrum to the fullest. Hand-printed in Kansas City using an eco-friendly printing process on sweatshop-free garments that are ethically made in the USA. Find them. We are Wasteland Society on Instagram. Back at it on the Spoken Podcast. I'm your host, Lance Twidwell, with my guy, Trevor Twidwell.
How's it going, guys?
Eddie Ortiz, and our special guest, Shaggy Shane Williams.
What is up, Kansas City and worldwide fans of all ages?
There we go. So, addressing everyone across the board. So, as I alluded on the end of our last segment, we are going to touch on the hottest, newest toy on the Chiefs team, on the roster. It is safety, Tyrann Mathieu. Very, very exciting to see the Chiefs make this type of move. Again, as I stated earlier, I had no idea this guy was even on our radar, and come to find out he was their number one priority, according to a lot of sources that I trust and believe. I didn't believe he was going to be on the radar because I didn't think that the Texans were going to allow him to leave at all. And according to everything I'd seen, once he signed, J.J. Watt, Bill O'Brien, all the guys from the Texans were saying, man, we're going to miss this dude. And they weren't saying it. They were not, glossing it over to be nice. They were being very detailed with why they're going to miss this guy and why Bill O'Brien was very upset they lost him. And I think we're going to discover that very quickly in Kansas City as to why, because this guy brings a lot of things the Chiefs needed. According to what I have read, he played over 99% of their snaps last season. Yeah. Now, he's had some injury concerns. He's missed 14 games in his career, but that was all earlier in his career. He's got back-to-back seasons of at least 16 games.
Didn't he have an ACL?
I believe he had an ACL in 2014.
Okay. That was the big one.
But see, even with that considered, he bounces back in 2015, has arguably his greatest season up to date. Yeah. With his most interceptions, most passes defended. So this guy has answered back, and this is the best part about it. As you alluded to earlier, Shane, you stated about his leadership and how we needed that next guy, because Eric Berry was that guy for the longest time. Justin Houston was a big part of that as well. But now Tyrann Mathieu is taking over that mantle. So he's not just a football player here. He's a man amongst other men, and he's trying to lead these other men as we regroup and replenish this new style and this new regime of defense on the Kansas City Chiefs led by Steve Spagnuolo. So I want to get your guys' thoughts. Shane, I'm going to start with you. What are your thoughts in totality about the Tyrann Mathieu signing? Obviously, I know you're probably excited about it, but are there anything at all that you might be concerned about?
I'm not concerned about anything. I love the kid. I love what he brings to I love the fact that he's not just a box safety. He's somebody that can play the nickel. He's somebody that can play the tight end. He's somebody that you can play deep in the backfield. And like I said on the last segment, he's a leader. We need his leadership qualities because we lost Justin Houston and Eric Berry. He's somebody that the team on defense can go to. And Patrick Mahomes was asked specifically, I heard this on the radio driving home last night, what does he think about Tyrann Mathieu coming to Kansas City? And all Patrick Mahomes said was, I need this guy to run my defense. And if that doesn't speak loudly and clearly of who the leader is of this team, it's Patrick Mahomes, obviously. But if any other Chiefs quarterback in my lifetime, I don't think if Matt Castle, Alex Smith would have said that about anybody on defense, wouldn't carry that weight. But that not only carries that weight about Patrick Mahomes, it carries that weight about Tyrann Mathieu. I love his versatility. I love his leadership. And I love the fact that Patrick Mahomes is already saying, we got our guy. What do you think, Trev?
Man, like you said, he's not just your typical safety. The guy can play slot corner. The guy can, he's a blitzer. He can get there, he can bruise you. He can take it, take a quarterback down. And as Beach has already stated, he's the ultimate chess piece. When your GM's saying something like that, someone being the ultimate chess piece, and you went out and got him, and you were wanting to get him last year, or he was one of the guys you were eyeing last year, and the ultimate guy that you wanted to get leading into this year, I feel nothing but confidence, man. We got the guy that we wanted. Our GM got the guy that's going to be our change of pace guy. The guy that's going to bring in this new wave of young talent. It's exciting, man. It's exciting to know that we're going to have a new vocal leader back then. As much as we're going to miss Eric Berry, we got this young, fiery stud. As long as he's healthy, he's going to make some big changes and he'll thrive, I think, in this new scheme. And the fact that he chose and made it very clear that he chose Patrick Mahomes over Deshaun Watson just kind of tickles my fancy a little bit. They're coming in the same draft. Everyone's like, oh, the Chiefs made a mistake taking Patrick Mahomes. And now Patrick Mahomes is stealing guys away from Deshaun Watson. It's beautiful, man. I freaking love it. And this kind of reminds me, too, of remember when Manny Sanders came and visited us, and then he ultimately went to the Denver Broncos because Peyton Manning went there. It kind of feels that way now with having Patrick Mahomes on our team, stealing guys away from other teams or choosing to come player because we know they have a better chance of going to getting some hardware. It's beautiful being that team, man. I freaking love it.
Yeah, it's kind of in comparison. I'm giving Patrick a lot of praise on this one, but I think it's deservingly so, even though he's only played one full season.
Right.
It's a lot like the LeBron James
MVP
factor.
season.
It's a lot like that, where you have a lot of these veteran guys that know that, I've made my money, or I've made a good amount of money. I want to get a championship, or I want the best chance at a championship. Who do I want to attach myself to?
Yep.
And it seems like a lot of these guys are jumping on the Patrick Mahomes bandwagon, as it should be.
Granted, we paid more than they were willing to pay, but that shows how
technically,
serious
yes. Technically, yes.
Right. Not by much.
But I think it was just by per year. Yeah. I don't think it was in totality, because I think they were willing to give him a longer contract. See, that was what I was going to bring up. I really like the fact that Chiefs managed to get him on a 3-year deal. See, for me, I love those deals that keep guys while they're in their 20s.
Oh, yeah.
I don't like these contracts that are paying guys into the 30s.
When he's hitting 30, he's going to be ready
like when the Chiefs signed Chris Jones, when the contract's up, he's not going to be in his 30s yet.
Right.
If and when Tyreek Hill gets his deal, he won't be in his 30s yet. Like, a lot of these guys are going to be very young. Tyrann Mathieu won't technically be in his 30s yet when this contract does come up.
Or even Pat Mahomes, when his $200 million is spent,
right,
he's going to be nearing 30.
Yeah.
It's going to be, and obviously he's going to most likely,
Well, he'll never see the end of this next contract because they'll extend him again.
True.
And that's just going off of our assumption that he's going to continue to be the great god of Zeus, Zeus that he is. So a couple of things, though, I want to get down is because initially I had thought that the guaranteed money on Tyrann Mathieu's contract was $14 million.
Mm-hmm.
I was off on that one. That's actually a signing bonus. What his actual guaranteed money is $26.8 million, which is actually very good if you think about it, because you're paying him less than $10 million a year in guaranteed money. So they can front load that and pay him all the guaranteed money in the first 2 years. And if, let's say, he was to, start to show any type of decline, they can get rid of him, kind of like they did with Eric Berry. It's a business. Let's be honest. And I mean, like I said, I was studying him all week long, and there's so many notes I have right here. I told you guys about these notes that I have. I'm not going to go into all of it, but back-to-back seasons of 16 games is a great sign.
Oh,
If he was coming off a year of 10 games or a couple years where he missed 5-6 games at a time, I'd be very nervous about this one because a lot is riding on his success.
Yeah, and
here.
we're not hearing about anything lingering either. He's a young guy. He's healing a lot faster than normal.
Yeah.
Not hearing about anything lingering or him having to play through certain pain is a good thing too.
Yeah, and so I asked you guys, if there was anything that you're worried about with this one. It took me a lot to find anything that I didn't like about this one. And it isn't even that I don't like, it's just maybe a concern. I came up with 3 things.
Yeah.
The first one, obviously, is the fact he's missed 14 games in 6 seasons. That's not great. That's been 3 years now since he's missed a single game.
Right.
$14 million a year is pretty heavy, seeing that Eric Berry was making around 13 and a half every year. So that was the richest contract among safeties. Now Landon Collins is taking that over, so we don't have to worry about that.
Go Redskins.
But the third one, and I think this is fair. He's only had 13 interceptions in his career. Now, as a safety, guys get used differently because guys like Ed Reed is going to have more interceptions than a strong safety,
the
like a
hawk kind of guy.
Yeah, like a Troy Polamalu. They're not going to have as many safeties or many interceptions as that safety because they're a different style. But Tyrann's been kind of a free floater. So I would like to believe that he's going to get a little bit more, on that side. Now, he's deflected a lot of passes in his career, but 2015 was the one that he had the most interceptions, and I believe that was 5, only 5. So his highest end of his career was only 5. In Kansas City, we're going to need to get a lot of turnovers because I don't think that they're going to lead the league in sacks this year. Now, it's early, obviously, but more than likely they're not going to lead the league in sacks. And if they don't, they're going to need to turn the ball over a lot. Shane, what's your thoughts?
My thought on that specifically, that specific point that you just brought up, the Arizona Cardinals, they were giving up a lot of yards on the run. That's a stat we need to look up. Why wasn't he getting very many interceptions as an Arizona Cardinal?
Fair.
As a Kansas City Chief, the opposing teams are going to be throwing the ball quite a bit because the Chiefs' offense is going to be scoring a lot of points.
Sure.
So there are going to be there's going to be a lot of teams that are going to have to score on us. So that number, I know, if he stays healthy, will go up. But that's something that we need to look at. Okay, why was his interceptions down as an Arizona Cardinal?
Yeah.
Were they giving up a lot of yards on the ground? What were the Cardinals' record during that period? Because I don't think they were very good from 2014.
Well, yeah, and we got who are we going to surround him with? That's a big thing too. We got a young Breland Speaks, who I think is going to be a stud in this system. I think he's going to be a solid player. But who else are we going to get in there with Chris Jones to collapse that pocket and pressure the quarterbacks to make bad throws for him to make those plays? He hasn't been on that. I mean, besides this Texans defense was the best defense he's been on as far as a whole package team. So if we get solid, say we trade for a Patrick Peterson, or we go get or we go trade for a Jadeveon Clowney. We trade some picks for a Jadeveon Clowney or Ziggy Ansah or somebody like that. Who knows? If we go get some other big time playmakers that can cause more pressure and stir it up around him and allow him to be more free and make those plays and ball hawking plays, maybe he will get more.
To your point, I think that the Chiefs are definitely beefing up the front seven. The Alex Okafor trade, the signing, I love that. He's a good run stuffer, a low risk, high reward type of deal. I believe the total that it could be with incentives included is about $28 million.
And he's coming from a similar system.
Exactly. Yeah. So a 4-3 scheme. They're building guys around Tyrann Mathieu. Like you said, they're going to give him guys. They're going to help him elevate his own game. And while that goes along, it's going to elevate everyone else around him. So I'm really excited about that. So I want to get this real quick in this segment with you guys, because this got me excited. I really researched this one. Because Tyrann Mathieu is obviously a humongous get in free agency. This is a big time get for the Chiefs, because it's very rare you go and get these type of guys, elite talents.
Outside of Earl Thomas, there's no one more versatile in the league than
Sure, that's fair. So how about this? What I had asked myself, and I did a little research, and Shane, I don't even need to get you. This isn't even on the spot. You know it automatically. I can guarantee it. But Trevor, I'm going to start with you. This is a big free agent get, obviously, but what is this the biggest of all time in Chiefs history? And if it isn't, who is it the biggest since, as far as free agents the Chiefs have picked up throughout their history? And I'm looking more towards the last 25, 30 years primarily, because that's the fan base is going to be more familiar with names. Yeah. But to you, if he is the biggest, and if he's not, who is it the biggest since?
As far as overall talent and promise, him being so young still, and what he could become still, I don't think we've seen his ceiling yet.
Sure,
because he hasn't been on a great team yet. And I think we can be a great team, and we are going to be a great team. I think he's the best since Deron Cherry.
I like it.
Deron Cherry wasn't a player in the league. We picked him up out of free agency as an undrafted rookie.
I like it.
But let's say Deron Cherry, undrafted free agent out of Rutgers, 6-time Pro Bowler in 11 years, all-time Chief.
5-time All-Pro safety, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
50 interceptions, 14 fumbles.
Recoveries.
Recoveries in 148 games. He won the NFL 101 Defensive Player of the Year and is a part of the 1980s All Defensive Team. The guy was an absolute stud. I looked at a lot of our, and especially recently, like with Ron Parker and I know there's Marcus Allen in there somewhere, but we haven't had. Trent Richardson. We haven't had too many like guys that just came in here and just flourished for a long time.
Sure.
We had like little stints. But Deron Cherry was one that stood out to me the most as far as overall body of work and coming in and being a chief and an all-time chief. But yeah, I think he is, as far as pound for pound talent, the best free agent we've ever picked up.
I would say that the Chiefs had picked up safeties and players and cornerbacks along the way in the last 25, 30 years.
Retreads.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
Like Ty Law.
Mm-hmm.
Patrick Surtain.
Patrick Surtain.
Yeah.
Cornerbacks. And
Sean Smith, guys like that.
And they got Mark Collins in 1994 from the New York Giants, and he won a Super Bowl with the Giants as a cornerback. Gunther Cunningham was able to move him from cornerback to safety. But to come in at the age that Tyrann Mathieu is at 26, I feel it's even adds more because he is so young.
Yeah.
But to compare it to defensive backs the Chiefs have picked up in recent years, I would have to go for Mark Collins.
But even I'm talking about like free agents in general, like any type of position player at all. Like I'm talking like throughout the time, if you could compare him to a free agent the Chiefs have picked up as far as the dynamic player and the name, who is, if he is the biggest, then he's the biggest. But if not, who has it been since?
Well, when Priest Holmes came in 2001, there was just like, this guy was a really good running back behind Jamal Lewis. Maybe he's going to come in and he's going to be the Marshall Faulk of the Dick Vermeil offense. There wasn't like, oh my gosh, the Kansas City Chiefs just got Priest Holmes. I was like, yeah, I think this guy was pretty good. He was pretty good with Baltimore for a couple of years. He flourished under Al Saunders and Dick Vermeil. But to get to the hype, like, wow, we just signed this guy. I have to say Ty Law. And Ty Law was at the end of his career. But of the fact that we had championed Ty Law, he signed a 1-year deal with the Jets or something before that. I would have to say Ty Law.
Okay. I actually got a funny story real quick. And I don't know how much time we have left around this segment or not, but I remember being on a plane from California when I think this was 04. That was the offseason before Ty Law got here, right? Was it 05 when he came here?
Ty Law came in 06. We tried to get him in 05, but we didn't get him till 06.
Okay. So 06, I remember I was flying back from Orange County. Went out there trying to impress a girl by riding a bunch of amusement park rides, and I hated those
Girls
to this day. Well, yeah, and it ended up not even working out anyway, so it was totally not worth it. But I remember coming back. Yeah, currently single, 4 years strong. Here we go. So here we are. I'm on a plane, and I noticed this big dude is walking my way, and I'm like, I know this guy from somewhere. As soon as he sits down, it clicked. This is Willie Rofe. Oh my God.
That's a big man.
This is amazing. So we're on the plane. I haven't said nothing to him because I'm so nervous, right? My dad's picking me up at the KCI airport, and our luggage is right next to each other at the baggage claim thing or whatever the little bell thing is.
Right.
And I finally go, Mr. Rofe, big fan, man. I'm a teenager at this time. Hey, I'm really excited to meet you. Thank you so much for everything you've done in Kansas City. I think that ended up being his last year, or maybe the year after that. But I remember him talking to me. He was limping. He looked like he was in pain. And I remember I asked him about Ty Law, and I was like, hey, is there any chance that Ty Law's coming here? And he goes, man, Ty Law's in a wheelchair right now. That dude can't even walk. And then all of a sudden, after he said that, though, he looked down at me, and this dude's huge. He's about your height, Shane. And he looks down at me, and he just winks. Man, like the next day or a couple days after that, we signed Ty Law. Like, it was just so funny how, like, the timing of that. So that's a story I'll always remember about Willie Rofe. He's a great guy. I've talked to him over the last few months. He's a really good dude. But I will give you guys my answer. And I went through a list of these guys, and there is a ton of guys that surprisingly it shocked me how many good free agents the Chiefs have signed throughout the years.
Yeah.
You're talking about Casey Wigman. You're talking about James Hasty. You're talking about Tony Richardson, Deron Cherry, like Trevor talked
Eddie
about.
Kinnison.
Brian Waters, which was a huge, one of the most underrated offensive linemen of all time.
For
But
sure.
we're talking about that wowed us as fans.
Yeah, right. I'm talking about just like, but
Right.
guys that contributed, that came in here and made a name for
Solid
themselves,
role
star players.
Hussein Abdullah.
Yeah, Willie Rofe again. But to me, it's simple. It's Priest Holmes.
Yeah.
It is
As far
Priest
as
Holmes.
star power goes, that guy was amazing.
He went undrafted out of Texas in 1997, spent his first three seasons with the Ravens, won that Super Bowl in 2000 with them. The next season comes to Kansas City, currently second all-time in Chiefs franchise rushing yards with 6,070.
Yep.
Rushed for 76 touchdowns in his 6 years at Kansas City. He only had 86 in his career, so only 10 of them came outside of Kansas City. He went from 2001 to 2004. Priest rushed for 5,482 yards, 70 rushing touchdowns. That's 8 less yards than Reggie Bush 8 less yards than Reggie Bush had in his entire 11-year career.
Talking about seizing the moment, man.
Yeah. He had more rushing yards in that span than Darren McFadden, Ronnie Brown, Willie Parker, Doug Martin, Jamal Anderson, Chris Ivory, Natrone Means, Brandon Jacobs, Mike Allstott, Gale Sayers, Dorsey Levens, Ahmad Bradshaw, Christian Okoye had in their entire careers. But that's not it. He had more touchdowns, rushing touchdowns in that span than Steven Jackson, LaShawn McCoy, Maurice Jones-Drew, Eddie George, Thomas Jones, Fred Taylor, Michael Turner, Ricky Williams, Stephen Davis, Willis McGahee, Thurman Thomas, Larry Zonka, O.J. Simpson, Herschel Walker, D'Angelo Williams, Terrell Davis, Ernest Biner, Roger Craig, Tiki Barber, Chris Johnson, Larry Johnson, Matt Forte, Arian Foster, and their entire careers. The man was madness.
Yep.
Had the greatest 3 to 4 year run in NFL history for a running back. Back-to-back 20-plus touchdown seasons. We will never see that again in the NFL.
Probably not.
That was to me, he's the greatest free agent the Chiefs have ever picked up because he made immediate impact and was not a superstar before he came here, but by God, by the time he left, he was one of the greatest players that have ever played in a Chiefs uniform, in my opinion. But Tyrann Mathieu, you better believe this dude has the opportunity and the ability to make a name just as great on the other side of the ball than Priest Holmes did on the offensive side. I truly believe that. And we found him right around the same age that Priest Holmes, I think he was a year older, in 29 years old when he came here. Yeah. Tyrann Mathieu will be 27. So he's got a lot of ability. And ironically, Priest Holmes had a lot of injury problems when he came into Kansas City. A lot of hip problems. That's a big concern for a running back, especially a guy that was getting bulks of the carries. So,
and we're going to need Tyrann to make some plays now that we got AB in our division and we got Odell in the AFC now.
And I'm really glad you brought that up because in our next segment, guys, we're going to talk a lot about these Browns and Raiders moves because they can and ultimately could very well affect the Chiefs and their pursuit at a championship and just in the division itself. So when we get back, we're going to talk a lot about Browns and Raiders. We'll get to that after this.
Midcoast Modern is a Kansas City focus on modern, handmade, and small brands. A resource for design-centric home goods, apparel, jewelry, artwork, and limited edition gifts. We support makers, artists from the Midcoast, and bring in goods from makers, artists around the U.S. to offer a unique selection.
Commandeer is Kansas City's alternative apparel brand. They make unique Kansas City-themed clothing and accessories with a countercultural appeal. Find them online at commandeerbrand.com or follow them at Commandeer Brand on Instagram or Facebook. This is the Spoken Podcast. Back at it again. I am Lance Twidwell, your host, with my guy Trevor Twidwell.
How's it going, guys?
Eddie Ortiz, and our special guest that I cannot mention more than enough than I already have, Shaggy Shane Williams.
What's going on, people?
All right, guys. So we have already knocked down a lot of Chiefs news tonight. We've addressed the current situation with Tyreek Hill. We've talked about the free agent Tyrann Mathieu signing. We've talked about Justin Houston, Eric Berry, Dee Ford, their situations, why the Chiefs had to part ways with them. And, that's been the gist of what's been going on for the Chiefs. But we would be remiss if we didn't talk about some AFC teams, a team that directly affects the Chiefs in their own division and the moves they've made, and also a team that a lot of people are jumping on the bandwagon for the first time in many, many years, and that is the Cleveland Browns and the moves they're making, ironically, under the leadership of one John Dorsey, the former Chief GM. So, guys, there's been a lot of moves, especially from the Browns side. I mean, they have been, they've been the most aggressive team out there in free agency. They're trying to make splashes. They're trying to win.
They're trying to max out their salary cap.
Super Bowl or bust.
They're trying to, what they're doing is what I love. I love what John Dorsey, well, yeah, I mean, it's funny.
It seems that way.
It's like we got to take them seriously.
Right,
Let's be honest
money
here.
to pay all these guys.
What we just talked about was John Dorsey has a problem. Yeah. It's not football. It's not football talent related.
Yeah.
It's cap related, which they will have problems eventually, but not right now because they still have their quarterback on a rookie deal for several more years. So they don't have to pay him right now. So they're capitalizing on paying these other guys around him for the meantime. So I like what the Browns are doing. I'm just going to get out and say it. The first thing I said was, look, I still think the Chiefs are the better team. We have Patty Mahomes, we have Andy Reid, we have Chris Jones, we have Tyreek Hill, we have Travis Kelce, Sammy Watkins, the list goes down. We are the better team. We've gone further. We've proven more. But the Browns are serious, and we need to respect this team. I don't think they're a Super Bowl team yet because I haven't seen them even make the playoffs yet. But I will say that the NFL is the league that changes on a flip from one year to the next, where teams look horrible and they go on to be Super Bowl contenders. So I think the Browns are a very serious team, especially after we got the news that they went and traded for one Odell Beckham Jr. Now, I know wide receivers aren't exactly what they will be a key catalyst to Super Bowl victories because most Super Bowl teams that win don't always have great wide receivers, at least in the last 15 plus years. But Odell Beckham Jr. is one of the more special talents we've seen at that position for many, many years. And he is a great addition when you have a young quarterback like Baker Mayfield, when you already have guys like Njoku, when you already have guys like Jarvis Landry, not to mention the running back core. My God, with Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, and several other guys they've used. It's
Duke
ridiculous.
Johnson.
Yeah,
they're trying to shop him right now, though.
Sure. And when you have guys like Chubb and
extended
Kareem Hunt
him
coming
last
after week 9, it's, you don't really need that guy. But the point is they traded him from the Giants for a first and a third and safety Jabril Peppers. Really, if you're being honest, that's a great trade for the Cleveland Browns. Let's be real here.
Should have got more than that.
They've also traded for defensive end Olivier Vernon, which I thought was a great trade, and I thought the Chiefs should have definitely looked at that, but that would have been a little bit too much. I think they would have demanded in return. And they also signed former Vikings defensive tackle Sheldon Richardson to a 3-year, $39 million deal.
That's a big one up the middle, man. That's a beast.
Yes, and Sheldon Richardson's getting into his prime. He's 28 years old. This dude has been nails since the day he came into the league. That was actually the same draft Eric Fisher came out of. I would have loved if the Chiefs would have went and got Sheldon Richardson, but that's neither here nor there. But like I said, the Browns have made themselves respectable. And I love what they're doing as just a football fan personally. I think it's
fun.
It's incredible to see what they're doing because the AFC, what have we been talking about for years or over this last year?
Yeah.
It's going to be a one-horse race. The Chiefs are eventually going to take over. But I kind of like this. Like, imagine 2 years ago telling yourself, hey, guys, you know who's going to be the class of the AFC one day? The Chiefs and the Browns.
Yeah.
Nobody, honest, let's be real here. Like, that sounds like you took too many hits of the pipe.
Yeah,
So here we are, guys. The Browns are making moves. They may not make it as many big moves. They still have some draft capital that they can utilize to build this team. Yeah. But regardless, like I said, they are respectable. They should be respected. Shane, what are your reactions to what we've heard so far from the Browns?
The New York Giants were 32-49 with Odell Beckham Jr. New York Giants, let me say it one more time, were 32 wins, 49 losses with Odell Beckham Jr. That's like looking up an Alex Smith stat in 2015 where Alex Smith was 337-1 when the opposition scores 24 or more points. I am not a fan of Odell Beckham Jr. I'm not a fan of these divas. I'm not a fan of these me. Look at me. I'm a wide receiver. I made all this money, but my team sucks. But I get all these yards. Throw me the ball. I'm not a fan. For the city of Cleveland, I'm a huge fan. If you look at the teams that have struggled in my lifetime, I'm 49 years old. I'm 1 month younger than your dad, Trevor and Lance. So I think your dad could attest to this as well. There's a lot of people that have felt sorry for the Cleveland Browns, the city of Cleveland in 1986, 87, and 89, where they were so close to the first Super Bowl. Marty Schottenheimer couldn't get them to get over the hump. I'm happy for their excitement. I'm happy that this team, that their fan base gets to get excited about Baker Mayfield, Nick Chubb. And if the Cleveland fans are excited about Odell Beckham Jr., I'm happy for them. But I just don't buy into the hype that Odell Beckham Jr. is going to put him over the edge when what he has done in New York was a huge distraction. You guys may disagree with me. Trevor, what's your feelings on this?
I definitely think he's going to be a huge factor as far as offensively. He's going to bring a dynamic to that offense that Baker hasn't had yet or ever in his collegiate career or NFL career so far. I like the moves. The moves are sexy, but we still got to see it first. We got to see it in action. We're talking about two major prima donna attitude kind of guys with Baker and Odell. They're both similar kind of guys. They're both mouthy. They're both very dramatic. They're both charismatic to, as far as with their coaches. We saw how Baker was, towards Hugh. It was a little embarrassing. Probably embarrasses, his flair is a little too much sometimes. And we've seen that with Odell, having fights with objects on the side of the field.
Well, in defense, he did propose to that object too. So.
That was actually hilarious. But I'm just saying, I don't know, man. Look what happened with the two big personalities in this. I know we'll get to this in a minute with AB and Big Ben, two big personality guys, two dramatic divas. That didn't work. I mean, I know they put up good numbers, but did they really do much together? Not really, as far as the numbers go. Yeah, they did, but I don't know, man. We got to see it. It doesn't scare me. I know our team is the better team, like hands down. We put 37 points on them against that defense. So if it's going to be a boat race between the offenses, my money's on the Chiefs. It's not a question for me. So yeah, the big names are cool. Odell is a scary talent, but we don't know if it's going to mesh. And I don't think their defense got that much greater with Richardson being the addition. Yeah, he's a nice player, but they lost Jamie Collins in the same weak. Jamie Collins is a big time player too, so it's like losing that kind of a linebacker off your defense is a detrimental move too. So we'll see.
Sure. I will add this though. I know the record states that they had a losing record with Odell Beckham Jr. Who that means? I mean the New York Giants.
Yeah,
I get all that. What I will say though is since they drafted Odell Beckham Jr., the Giants were 4-15 in games he didn't start. So when he was hurt or when he didn't start a game, they were actually even worse than what that record indicates.
So they're bad with him and worse without him.
For me, and that's you're right. But here's the thing. Here's the thing.
Polish on a turd. Yeah, sure.
Here's the thing. I think that means that it's more about the Giants than it actually has to do with Odell Beckham.
Quarterback player.
And I've always stated this is something even before I even created the Spoken. Something that I have always said when it comes to wide receivers and their total value, in essence, is the fact that a good wide receiver needs a good quarterback, then a good quarterback needs a good wide receiver. That you have guys like Larry Fitzgerald, who has some of the greatest numbers of all time, but he only had this short window of having Kurt Warner. And when he had Kurt Warner, he put up his career numbers. There's no coincidence there. And once Kurt Warner left, you saw his numbers drop.
Bottom of the barrel, Carson Palmer,
Megatron. The list goes on.
Yeah.
So, and this is a testament to what I think Odell Beckham was dealing with in New York, is he had a corpse in Eli Manning out there trying to chuck him the ball. Yeah. And Eli Manning is just not a good quarterback and hasn't been for years. Although I agree with you that the wide receiver position in itself isn't the most important position, I'd even beg that on an offense, it's probably one of the last. Because you look at the Patriots and all their success, they didn't have most of their Super Bowl wins with their best wide receivers. Yeah. Now, I will say, though, that Tom Brady put up his best career numbers when Randy Moss was there. So Baker Mayfield, for him, I think this is a great move because it's going to help him gain even more confidence and realize his own potential when he has a guy like not only Odell Beckham, but Jarvis Landry on the field. It's the same situation for Patrick Mahomes with Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins, Travis Kelce. You give a guy like that with so much talent that could lead an offense regardless of who he has around him, but with giving him more and more supreme talent, it's going to make his job easier where he's not going to have to press. And I think that's what the Browns are saying. Look, we're going to make your job as easy as possible, Baker. You better go and get it done.
Yeah, and I will say, too, I mean, the Chiefs do need to be reactionary to those moves.
Sure.
We do have to go get corners. I think we do need to trade up. Or not trade up, maybe. I don't know if we're going to take a corner with our first pick in the draft.
Trade for Patrick Peterson.
Or Jalen Ramsey, who I think is going to be out of our price range, but still maybe try to offer something for an elite shutdown corner.
They're going to ask for a first.
We need somebody who can shut down one side of the field.
Sure.
Because we got to have a guy who's going to follow Odell and follow AB. We need that guy. So we're going to have to be aggressive back. And I think there's going to be some splash moves that Beach is going to make. So we'll see.
If they're going to move, gosh, there's a lot of teeter-totter, and we'll have to see, and that could happen in the next couple of weeks. I love the Patrick Peterson talk, but we're the only ones talking about it.
We haven't heard anybody.
You talked about it last week on my show, and I would love that scenario. But if there's something you guys may want to talk about on the mock draft show, there's a Greedy Williams, a cornerback at LSU. I'm hoping and praying somehow we get him. But the $1 million question is, if he is sitting there at 21, do you give up one of your second-round draft picks and a fourth round to move up, or do you hope that one of these second-tier player? I think there's a Murphy cornerback out of Washington.
Yeah.
Like I said, that's a mock draft show.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of different ways the Chiefs could go with free agency cornerback, but cornerback is important because of Antonio Brown.
Sure.
Because of Odell Beckham.
We have to
Jr.
respond to that.
Yeah.
Because of that.
And another piece that we haven't really talked about a lot tonight, and rightfully so, but I think it's time, is Kareem Hunt going from the Chiefs to the Browns. He will serve an 8-game suspension as reported by Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport. They did confirm that today.
He's going to have fresh legs coming in the second part of the season.
He's going to have fresh legs, but here's the thing. I think that he would also be extremely valuable for the Browns, more than I think even some of us would like to admit, because of the sad ending to Kansas City. But I went and wrecked my numbers up today. I went and crunched them. Patrick Mahomes, even, you saw the difference in his game. At first, I didn't think there would be much. And honestly, he still had an MVP season without Kareem Hunt in pace. As far as the games he played 7 games, including the playoffs, without Kareem Hunt.
Yeah.
And his 11 games with Kareem Hunt, he was averaging 68% completion percentage, 330 yards. He had 37 total touchdowns, which is 3 per game. He had 10 interceptions, 117 quarterback rating. That's a 16-game pace of 5,280 yards, 54 touchdowns, and 14 interceptions. That's an all-time great season right there if he had Kareem Hunt. Obviously, he ended up having 50 touchdowns anyway.
Right.
But the thing is that in the 7 games, there's a little bit of a dip in certain areas, but there's a spike in some. So it's kind of weird how it worked out. In the 7 games, including the 2 playoff games against the Colts and Patriots, Patrick Mahomes averaged 62 completion percentage, 292 yards per game. That's over 30 yards per game. That's basically a completion in Patrick's world. 16 touchdowns, which is 2 per game. but only 2 interceptions for the remaining of those 7 games. He only threw 2 picks. Okay, that was after the Rams game. 138 quarterback rating. So that's 21 points up.
Yeah.
He got smarter, got more efficient because he knew he didn't have Kareem Hunt, the comfort level of Kareem Hunt. 16 game pace, that's 4,672 yards, 36 touchdowns, only 4 interceptions. You can still win MVP with those numbers. You absolutely can still win MVP with those numbers. So, but you can tell the difference. You can tell that Kareem Hunt played his part.
Well, the fact that it happens that early, in the middle of the season, man, something like that happens. And for him to even put up those numbers that you said is incredible. Now he has a whole offseason to prepare with the guys that he has, with the Carlos Hyde and Damian Williams and then Darrell Williams, who I think is a solid player. I think we got a good running back core that he can develop with. So.
Sure. And just look at the running back on the roster going into last year. Last year, the running backs were starter Kareem Hunt, backup Spencer Ware, and then a whole slew of Williamses. Damian Williams, who got from Miami, Curran Williams from Arizona, who didn't make the team, and Darrell Williams. But it speaks of what, and I don't want to get off topic of Patrick Mahomes because that's what we're talking about here. It speaks of highly of Andy Reid's offenses to where a third string running back can come in and be successful.
Yeah.
The same thing had happened to him with Spencer Ware and Charkandrick West in 2015 when Jamal Charles was hurt and Al Davis was losing time as carries.
Right.
A lot of that is attributed, and I'll attribute to the loss of Kareem Hunt going into the second half of the season and those stats that you just brought up to Andy Reid. He's able to freaking game plan.
Sure, absolutely. And so now we're talking about game planning. The Chiefs have won 3 straight AFC West championships. I think something they've never done in their history. So they're obviously in uncharted waters. And the Raiders are aware of that. They've decided to make some pretty confusing moves. I think that's the way we could probably put this. John Gruden hasn't exactly done what I would call he hasn't really made effective moves that I think are good for the long term of the team. And when you have a 10-year contract, I'd like to believe that you're probably looking for the development of your team for the next 2 to 4 years. But what they do is they go in and bear in mind, anybody that's missed it, they went and traded the best pass rusher in the league at 26 years old. Granted, they did get a couple first round picks out of him, but they still traded him away. They had no contingency plan, so they had the worst pass rush in the NFL. Then they traded 24-year-old Amari Cooper, who's well above an average wide receiver, and he showed that when he went to Dallas with even an average quarterback with Dak Prescott. Traded him away, got a first-round pick out of the Dallas Cowboys, so that gives them 3 additional first-round picks. And they had, I think, a top 6 draft pick just from the record alone. So they go in, they do those moves, and then they, I guess it makes sense in some form or fashion, sign a soon-to-be 31-year-old Antonio Brown. They traded for him, rather, for a 3rd and a 5th round pick and signed him to a 3-year, $50.1 million deal with nearly $39 million guaranteed attached to that. Look, guys, Antonio Brown is incredible. I've said often that he was on pace to be the greatest receiver we've ever seen. He's had the greatest 6-year stretch we've ever seen from a wide receiver. That includes Jerry Rice. But this move makes no sense for the Raiders.
Especially in a rebuild.
Especially when we don't even know if Derek Carr is going to be their quarterback coming into this next season with his $20+ million that he's owed.
He is now.
Well, the fact that Antonio Brown went to his house and they made a big deal that he never got to go to Ben Roethlisberger's house. And ESPN was there to watch Antonio Brown to go to his house.
Gruden is such a flip-flopper, though, that I wouldn't even – would you guys honestly be shocked if tomorrow we heard they just dealt Derek Carr?
Nope.
Be honest. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, even though they show the video –
Miami doesn't have a quarterback.
Yeah, John Gruden had nothing to do with that meeting, though. Let's be honest. That was a Derek Carr and Antonio Brown thing. Yeah. So if we heard, God damn it, I'm trading Derek Carr to the fucking Cardinals. Like if we heard that, would it really shock you?
No.
You know what I'm saying? Like, hold your fucking jersey up, boy. You're getting traded.
You thought we were rebuilding again.
Damn it, ZY Banana.
Baby. Yeah.
God, yeah. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, it wouldn't shock me if John Gruden did that. But see, this is the thing. Despite the Antonio Brown thing, you can excuse it a little bit because he's such a superstar. Yeah. He's still in the prime of his career, so you're going to, he's going to produce. What do these dipshits go and do? They go and sign the 2015 7th-round pick, backup offensive tackle from the Patriots, Trent Brown, to a 4-year, $66 million deal with $36.7 million guaranteed, which makes him the richest offensive tackle in NFL history. This guy was a 7th-round pick.
You got to protect Carr, man. He's the future.
I mean, I'm not even a Raiders fan. I'm like, man, I feel so bad for Raiders fans right now. This is a stupid-ass move.
No, most of them probably
if the Chiefs gave Eric Fisher that contract, I would flip shit, man. Yeah. But no, they go and give this scrub $36.7 million. But I'm saying, like, as a Raiders fan, I would be belligerent. But
that's why I love it.
This is what I'm talking about. These are the types of moves I don't understand. He was graded 36 overall amongst all left tackles last year, behind Riley Reef and the Vikings, who consider him a problem.
So good.
Like, think about that for a second, man. That's insane to think about. He's 25 years old, but this is so Raiders.
Yeah.
This is so them. How many teams would have paid Trent Brown that kind of money? Nobody. And then we're talking about they signed Tyrell Williams.
Yeah. Who's a solid player, but he's literally just a one-trick pony.
They signed him to a 4-year, $47 million deal with $22 million guaranteed. He's 27 years old. He's played 4 seasons with San Diego LA Chargers. Has a total of 155 receptions.
He's the number 3 receiver on the Chargers.
2,530 yards and 17 touchdowns in 155 games. Yeah. So Raiders. That is typical Raiders. They go and cut Jordy Nelson, which that's fine. AJ McCarron, which is fine. But again, Derek Carr's future is so uncertain. Maybe he plays this year, but when they go to Las Vegas, will he be their long-term answer? I don't know. We don't know what they're going to do with their picks, and I know everybody. I posted a thing about John Gruden making fun of his moves, and all these Raiders fans came into my mentions, which is fine. It's their team. They're defensive. But they were all saying, well, the 3 first-round picks. Do you trust John Gruden to build your team? Right. Because he's yet to ever do it. He didn't do it in Tampa Bay. Sure shit, and didn't do it in Oakland. What are your guys' thoughts on these Oakland moves?
Who's the other receiver that they got? Was it J.J. Nelson? Is it one of the other? It was another deep threat. So basically, they got rid of, what's his name?
Jordy Nelson.
Jordy Nelson. They got rid of him, and the only guy that they know that can run the actual route tree is AB. And they signed 2 other deep, literally just one-trick pony deep threat guys. And you got a quarterback in Derek Carr who was second to last year in deep accuracy percentage. I don't know how much sense that makes. I mean, obviously if you get the ball in the hands of AB, anything can happen. But you sign 2 deep threat special receivers with one of the worst deep throwing quarterbacks in the league. It's puzzling, man. I don't know.
And if you're talking about John Gruden, I give John Gruden all the credit for taking Tony Dungy's team and beating Philadelphia. He deserves amount of credit of that because Tony Dungy could not win in Philadelphia to save his life. He took that team and schemed it and beat Andy Reid. John Gruden deserves that because the Buccaneers got a world title because of it. But in his years that followed, he could not find a quarterback for Tampa to save his life, from Chris Sims to Bruce Gradkowski to his running backs that he had drafted, from Cadillac Williams, who was a monster rookie. He was the first rookie in NFL history to rush for 100 yards the first 3 games of his NFL career. But John Gruden ran Cadillac Williams into the ground. There was a lot of that concern in the later 2000s, which got him fired from Tampa. But I don't know what he's doing. He like you alluded to, he's got a 10-year plan in Oakland. But I'm willing to watch that ship sink. Let it sink from Oaktown to Vegas.
I just don't understand. Like, I literally thought that they made it pretty clear that they're rebuilding something there. And you go and I know AB is a Hall of Fame talent. But if you're in a rebuild, why are you paying that much money for an aging vet who is a cancer in the locker room, mind you? And he's demanding that much money, and then you extend him even further. It just doesn't make any. I don't know.
That is my entire point.
So now you're trying to win. Now is that the case? Now
the Raiders, at best,
is that trash.
Let's
defense?
give them. Let's try to give them some shred of credit here. Right. Let's say they start to compete in 2 to 3 years. Okay, and obviously they're willing.
They win 8 games.
They're obviously willing to spend money here, right? They just gave some guy that no one knew before, this week, $66 million. Yeah. Let's say they compete in 3 years. Antonio Brown will be 34 years old.
On his way out.
On his last year of the
Randy
deal.
Moss all over again.
On the last year of his deal.
Yeah.
Derek Carr might not even be here. Trent Brown's probably going to be on the IR or something. Like, we don't even know if he's going to be on the team by that time.
Right.
You could have, instead of spending almost $100 million on those 2 guys, not even mentioning Tyrell Williams, you could have spent that on Khalil Mack. Mm-hmm. You could have given him his money, whatever money he wanted.
You can let Amari
whatever his market value was. No, but you can sign Amari Cooper too, because you obviously spent $100 million on these 2 guys. Hold on. But I'm saying, hold on. Amari Cooper did prove himself worthy.
He's got terrible hands, dude.
In Dallas, he was averaging over 100 yards of reception. I think he had 7 or 8 touchdowns.
Still one of the top drop players in the league.
To be able to put those numbers up with Dak Prescott is saying something, though. Let's be real here. Okay, my point is, in 3 years, Khalil Mack would have been 29 years old. Amari Cooper would have been 27. As opposed to Antonio Brown being 34, Trent Brown probably not even going to be on the team by then, and Tyrell Williams, who the hell is he?
I think Derek Carr's broken.
Reggie McKenzie was the general manager of the year in 2016, like way back in 2.5 years ago, and he is fired.
Yeah.
The Raiders are in freaking chaos
Mike Mayock,
mode.
baby.
Mike Mayock, I feel sorry for him because I love that guy. I love
He's good at what he did.
I love his evaluation of path of draft,
absolutely.
his talent, his scouting. I watched him on draft day.
Mm-hmm.
He's got his hands full. He's got a Band-Aid, duct tape, the Titanic, and put that
Whole
back
different
together.
thing of admiring talent and seeking talent and recognizing talent and then running one of the worst franchises in the NFL. That's a whole different thing. So, yeah, I mean, honestly, I think it all starts with Derek Carr. I think we've seen it. He looks timid. Yeah, he had one of his most accurate seasons this past season because he was throwing for 5 yards at a time.
I mean, you're talking about a team that's going to probably win 5 to 6 games at best this year, and Derek Carr's dead cap hit is $21.5
Derek Carr
million.
He lost his locker room last year, man. They were all upset about him being timid, and I like him as a guy, but since he got hurt, I haven't seen the same guy, man. He doesn't have that zest to him anymore.
So when it comes to the Chiefs, though, are you guys overall concerned about the Browns, and what do you think about? Do you feel like the Raiders in any way are climbing closer to the Chiefs?
No,
absolutely
not at all.
not.
Okay.
The only team in our division I remotely feel threatened by is the Chargers because of their front seven and because they're able to, the Chargers per se, I know we're just going to touch on this briefly, but the Chargers have that front seven is solid. And I respect Phillip Rivers, but he's near the end of his career. Denver, real quickly, they're in flux. John Elway can't evaluate a quarterback to save his life.
They got Joe Flacco on his prime. What are you talking about?
Yeah, he said that he's just entering his prime at 34 years old after getting benched by Lamar Jackson, who can't throw a football.
I was like, is this sarcasm? I wasn't sure.
Right, but I don't know what's going on in Denver. But getting to the point, the Chiefs should win the AFC West in 2019.
Well, Shane, I'm going to be honest. I'm really glad you came out tonight, and like I told Clay, our producer and operator of Red Tribe Cinema, whenever you want to come out, man, you got it.
Man, I appreciate it, dude. You've came and joined the Shaggy Shane show in that one Shaggy Drive and dealt with everything from my dog wanting to rip your arm off, leg off.
Shout out to Oliver.
Yeah. He always loves it when Lance comes over and gets mad when he leaves. He's already bit Clay. Did not draw blood, but, get seriously to the point. I built up the majority of my following just being a Chiefs fan. I worked for Warpaint Illustrated for 3 years. Got to interview Dustin Colquitt, Kendall Gammon, Anthony Davis. Got to be around Nick Athen, who at that time, I spent a lot of time with the Chiefs. So I had a lot of followers on Facebook. And I heard this kid about 6 years ago make a video, and it was yourself, Lance. You made a video, and you started making videos. You started making training camp reports in your kitchen. And I always wanted to go home and see what Lance Twidwell had to say, what he had to report from training camp. And I thought to myself, it drove me to make YouTube videos for myself, seeing what Lance Twidwell was doing. I thought, you know what? I'm going to start making post games because I've created somewhat of a following. I love what Lance Twidwell's doing. I'm going to make a YouTube video. And long story short, I would not be making videos if it wasn't seeing your work. I appreciate you influencing and inspiring me to make post games my show to myself, and I want to thank you for that, and thank you for having me here, Trevor, Eddie, and Lance. Thank you very much.
That means a lot, man. Thank you so much, dude. And if it's any consolation, seeing what you did, with those videos and what you've been doing and the impact you've made, definitely re-inspired me to do this, to get this podcast going. It's nothing new, but people, everybody does podcasts, but I wanted to do this, and it definitely reinvigorated that inside of me, man, to get this going. So I want to thank you for coming on and for saying all that. And if you could real quick, give all the listeners where they can find your YouTube channel, where you're at on Facebook, give them even your Twitter handle if you like, man.
Shaggy Shane, KC Chiefs. Look for Shaggy Shane, KC Chiefs on YouTube, and at Shaggy Shane KC on Twitter, and just look up Shane Williams on Facebook. Shouts to all my followers and anybody that takes me seriously. My show is not for everybody. People come up to me and tell me, Shaggy, I would like your shows if I didn't feel like you were screaming at me with loud rock and roll in the background. But I've had also people come to me and say, man, I love your show because you tell it like it is. And
you don't need any coffee when you listen to your show.
Number one Mahomie right here.
Yes. I wear that badge proudly.
Yes, sir.
thank you very much for having me on the show, and look forward to being on again, man.
Guys, that's Shaggy Shane. Let's give him a hand real quick. Thank you so much, Shag, for coming on.
Thanks, guys.
We're going to come back. Eddie Ortiz is actually going to come on. He's going to do what we like to call fill in the cracks, where he's going to give us some storylines regarding the rest of the sports world, some things you may not have known, things we're probably not going to know, but he's here to inform us and give us the knowledge that we did not know we needed, but we definitely did. So we'll get to that after this. KC Hemp Company, your most trusted CBD provider in Kansas City, shipping nationwide. Ancient plant for a new age health. Follow them on Facebook and Instagram at KC Hemp Co. And we are back on the Spoken for the final segment of the night. And guys, I got to be honest, this show's been very enjoyable. I didn't think it was going to be a lot of fun, to be honest with you, when we first heard the news about what came about with the whole Tyreek Hill situation, which we still have not had anything profound break after the initial news, after what TMZ had reported, after what Brooke Pryor from Kansas City Star reported. We haven't really had a lot, but nevertheless, we did not let that keep us down. We had a lot of good talks. I want to again thank our special guest, Shaggy Shane Williams, for coming on.
Shout out.
Definitely follow my guy on YouTube, guys.
OG.
He is truly an OG. He was a season ticket holder, I believe, from like 91 to 2011.
And guys, he didn't.
Sorry, Shane, if I got that wrong.
Yeah, he didn't have no notes.
Right.
It was all in his head.
My guy, I'm telling you, he brings it, and he's going to be on the show a lot more. So be prepared for that, because the dude drops knowledge every single time. Definitely follow him on his YouTube channel. Hit him up on Facebook. One of the best people on this planet. It'll be well worth your time to give him a listen. So for our final segment, and by the way, I'm glad our boy Eddie Ortiz is back. He's been on the sideline for a little bit, just looking for news in case it broke. But thank you so much for allowing your seat, man, to be filled with Shane.
Anytime, actually.
You're like, yeah, whatever you see me sit out.
Take my seat.
Shit.
Shot.
So
Whoever wants my spot can have it if they want. No, I'm just kidding.
Eddie's seat is officially for rent. It's pretty cheap.
500,000.
You might need to get some spray can or something to deodorant that thing.
Some
Deodorize.
Lysol.
So Eddie,
Hey,
we have
clean.
you back, and this is a new segment we started last week, but it is very important because obviously we talk a lot of Chiefs here, a lot of local sports, but I feel it's very important to get out there and reach a little bit further, and that's what you're here for, man. That's why you bring that knowledge as far as what's out there that we may have missed. So that's why this segment is going to be called Eddie Ortiz Filling in the Cracks. So Eddie, go ahead and take it away, man. What do you got out there in the sports world that we may not have been aware of?
Man, you're putting me in the spot like that?
Damn right.
Oh, man. Well,
Stage
let's start off with something that a lot of people are very familiar with. I would say most Americans are more familiar with NASCAR than they are with this sport. I am talking about Formula One. The season actually kicks off this weekend, kicks off Sunday.
Woo!
It's
Hell yeah.
I'm topless now.
a bunch of speed everywhere, you know. Hey,
Left turn.
it's not just left turns. It is rights, lefts.
Oh, holy
circles,
shit, they changed it up. Wow.
U-turns, it's everything.
This ain't NASCAR.
It is not.
That's how fast.
So, we have a whole lineup mix change up in Formula One that's starting this Sunday. Like I said, do we think Sebastian Vettel from Ferrari will take that championship home this year? It's been quite a few years since he actually won a championship. His last championship was with Red Bull Racing. I want to say that was 4 or 5 years ago, and he hasn't won since. He's been up there, just hasn't had that car that's pushing him over the limit. Or do we think Lewis Hamilton will take that crown again? He's what 5-time champion now. Not a lot of people have that, you know.
It's pretty good.
So, in Formula One, it's very competitive. Top 3 teams are very competitive. They're trying to make it to where it's a lot harder for teams to take that advantage because of the money gap. So they're trying to make it more competitive, more fun. So we'll see how this year shapes up. But like I said, let's see if Sebastian Vettel can actually come back and win that title, or if Lewis Hamilton will take the crown again. And that is that for Formula One. Now we go into soccer, football, whatever you guys want to call it.
Non-American football. There you go.
Yeah, actual football.
Okay, fair enough.
So let's start with our local boys, Sporting Kansas City.
Yeah,
I
man.
believe.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, still in it.
Thursday, they had their second leg in the CONCACAF Champions League. This is a tournament, an international tournament, CONCACAF being the North American Federation, pretty much, soccer association, whatever you want to call it. They hold this tournament every year, and the champion goes to the World Cup, the FIFA Club World Cup. And this tournament is held every December in either Abu Dhabi, Japan, Emirates, whatever that they're called. And they are in the Final Four, pretty much. They got 2 games left. They have a series against Monterrey from Mexico. Obviously, if they win this match, they will advance to the final, to the championship game. And obviously, if they win the championship game, they go on to play the World Cup. Now, in this World Cup, you got European teams, you got Asian teams, you got South American teams, you got Australian teams. So it's a mixture of everything. So let's hope our boys can pull off a miracle and for the first time in 19 years can actually win this trophy. I believe the last American team to win it was LA Galaxy back in 2000. So,
damn, it's been that long.
Yes. Huh? So hopefully our boys can take that crown this year. I mean that's pretty much. I mean, there's other news. I don't know if you guys want to get bored with them.
Well, I mean, that's why you're here, man. Just give us all the boring stuff. No, I was kidding. It's really good to hear this stuff, man. Because like I said, otherwise, a lot of our listeners may not have made some of these things, and it might get them interested in following these sports. So
we also had the Champions League second legs just this week, Tuesday, Wednesday, second legs, amazing matches. It was a second leg definitive matches. It was amazing. We had Barcelona beat Lyon by a score of, I believe, is 5-1, if I'm not mistaken, 5-2. Then you had Liverpool go to Bayern Munich in Germany and beat them 3-1. That was a shocker, honestly, to myself and to a lot of soccer fans. It was amazing. Then you had Manchester United, go into PSG, one of the richest clubs in the world, and just beat them at their own place. That was amazing. Watching the highlights was incredible. Then in the other match, you had Porto against, I believe, Roma. I mean, they're not as up there as your Barcelona's, Real Madrid's, United's, but it's still a good matchup. I mean, they're in there for a reason, you know?
Sure.
So they made it to the quarterfinals, if I'm not mistaken. So they're there for a reason. So that is all I have for today.
That is Eddie Ortiz filling in the cracks for us, man. I really appreciate that. He's going to be doing that every week to give us, like I said, what we may not have been aware of otherwise, because let's be honest, guys, as Americans, we're very familiarized with our sports, what goes on here, but there's so much more that goes on in our world. And I think it's good that we know about these things. So I'm really grateful for you doing that, man. Thank you so much.
I mean, I'm trying to do the best I can.
I appreciate it, man. I really do. Cause I mean,
diverse.
I could have sat there and said those things, but it would have had no meaning because I don't know what I'm, saying. So
it's fun, man.
I don't know what I'm saying, but
whoever's writing your script, bro, they're killing it.
Eddie, we know that.
All right, guys, are you ready?
Am I ready?
Are you ready? I think you guys all know what this segment is. All of our fans out there, all the listeners, they know what this segment is. Guys, what segment is this? Hold this L.
It's time to hold this L.
I want you to do me a favor and hold this L.
Somebody's got to hold that L.
Le who? The her.
I'm talking like caps lock L LL Cool J stuff.
Hold that L.
Good God, man. Hold this gigantic, veiny, pulsating L.
Man, you are one pathetic loser.
You ignorant bastard.
That was great.
Oh, hold this L. Well, we are here again for the 5th episode. Sorry if that was a little loud. We just get a little excited when it comes to this particular segment that wraps up our entire episode, giving the weekly L to somebody that is so deserving of it. And it seems like every week we have the perfect candidates for it. And I'm going to go right back to my guy, Eddie Ortiz, our fill in the cracks guy. Go ahead and fill in an L for us. Eddie, who is holding your L this week?
Let's go with the Oakland Raiders holding this L.
Like it?
like you said earlier in the show, they just signed a former 7th round pick back up from the Patriots to a pretty much a max deal for his position. And then, yeah, I mean, they made a move for Antonio Brown, but honestly, do you really think Derek Carr's going to make anything happen? There's no magic there. So, Oakland Raiders,
hold this L, mother.
All right.
Trevor Twidwell, go ahead and take it, man. Who's holding this L this week?
This might be the ultimate layup for hold this L segment, maybe ever.
I like
at least
that.
for now. Mine goes to the general manager of the New York Giants, previous general manager of the Carolina Panthers, who's already extremely disliked among many fans, not even just Panthers fans.
What's his name?
Dave Gettleman.
Okay.
Took to the podium, about a week or two ago, when there was rumors swirling around about Odell Beckham. I just want to read his quote here real quick. It says, New York Giants general manager Dave Gettleman took to the podium on February 27th. So it was a little while ago, to address the media during the NFL Combine. Someone asked about the rumors swirling around star wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr., whom the Giants just signed a 5-year, $90 million extension in August 2018. His quote, and I quote, "We didn't sign Odell to trade him," Gettleman said. And that's all I need to say about that. Obviously, then, just recently this past week, they did indeed trade Odell Beckham Jr. to the Browns for a first and a third and safety Jabril Peppers. If that's not maybe the worst start you can have as a new general manager for a franchise, coming from an absolute shit show in the one before, with the racist comments and the crap he had with Cam Newton and the beef he had with those fans and how they kicked him out. I mean, dude, you come in and you trade maybe one of the greatest talents in NFL history is at that position to the Browns. I mean, yeah, the Browns fans are obviously excited. But yeah, general manager, maybe not for long. Dave Gettleman, you're going to have to hold this L, sir. Yep.
Hold it all night long.
Oh, hold it. Hold it tight.
Hold it. Hold.
Yeah, it was bad. So, yep.
Sorry.
Hold that out.
This one's very easy for me. I'm really glad because we don't talk about who we're giving it to this week. So I'm always surprised that we always seem to find a way to have different ones. It's kind of cool, but maybe I just jinxed this because next we're gonna have a unanimous. But yeah, knock on this wooden table we're using. Okay, man, like I said, this one's really easy, and we can make light of it, but it's actually a very serious situation that our society, for some damn reason, still deals with. Russell Westbrook is one of the most high energetic superstars in sports, not just basketball, but in sports. And I understand why he garners a lot of anger from the opposing fans, especially on the road, things like that. You don't want to get in his head, because he's very emotional. Yes. But my God, guys, there is a line that people just seem to cross. And it happened not once, but twice over the last week with Russell Westbrook in Utah. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking about Jazz fans. There's a fan by the name of Shane Kiesel, or Kiesel, however you say his name. But last week, or earlier this week, Russell Westbrook had an altercation with this fan. And supposedly this man's wife, or it was just a woman next to him, it doesn't matter. Russell Westbrook was basically telling this guy that he was going to fuck him up. And he was going to fuck up the lady next to him. Now, obviously, that's not probably the smartest thing Russell Westbrook needed to say.
I believe it, though. I believe it.
Well, yeah, obviously, my money's on Russ running away. But the thing is that Russell probably shouldn't have said what he said. Yeah. But once you actually dive into the situation, once you actually understand what was taking place, despite what Mr. Kiesel was saying to the reporters that asked him after the game, this man was saying racist and demeaning things to Russell Westbrook that no other human being should have to endure. And although I do believe Russell Westbrook should have handled the situation better and with a little bit more dignity and class and maybe just ignore this jackass, I understand his frustration. I understand why he was so upset. And his teammates came to his defense and said, I heard those exact words without asking them without telling them what Russell Westbrook had already told them in the claim.
Dude, you could see it in the faces in the video.
Yes, you could tell the disgust these players were having. And this guy straight up lied to this reporter. Then I believe last night, if I'm not mistaken, they were back in Utah, the OKC Thunder were, and we have another fan. While Russell Westbrook's minding his own business, warming up, doing a little dance, getting warmed up for the game. Like I said, he's a high-energy guy. And we literally hear this guy on recording saying, come on, boy. Calls him boy.
Yeah.
And as I've stated it many times, that is something, if you actually, I don't know, do a little research, American history, you will see why that's not acceptable in our society to call an African-American man boy. It's unacceptable. But this guy didn't just say it once. He said it twice until one of the official crowd guys had to go over there and tell him to shut the hell up because Russell kindly asked the man to stop saying it. Didn't listen. He had to go get the officials to come over there and tell this dude, hey, you better quit or you're going to be kicked out. Well, that guy didn't get kicked out, but you know what did happen? Both him and Shane Kiesel have both been banned from the Utah Jazz Arena for good. And you know what? God damn it, that is the right thing the Jazz need to do. The owner came out, the lady came out after, ironically, last night's game and said, this is not what we do here in Utah. Well, I would like to believe she's right, but unfortunately, we've had several situations in Utah with these types of situations. Right. So you know what? Unfortunately, because I don't believe it's all the fans, but Utah Jazz fans, you got to hold this L. Because I'm telling you guys right now, that's unacceptable. Y'all need to grow up out there in Utah. You're not alone. I know their fan bases do this in other sports as well, and even in the NBA, but y'all got to hold this L tonight and for the rest of this week, because it's unacceptable this has even happened.
I just have a runner-up, a nominee that didn't make the list, but
there we go.
James Dolan, owner of the Knicks. I don't know if you guys saw that clip. Oh my God.
See, that's why I didn't pick him, because I thought one of you guys were going to take him.
I almost did, but my goodness. If this dumpster fire of a franchise and a dumpster fire of an owner could not get any worse, I mean, now he's turned on his own fans. His own fans are telling him to sell the team, and he's so butthurt and so down to their level that he stops walking through the tunnel while this fan says sell the team. Completely innocent notion to say how he feels as a fan. Don't blame him. And then Dolan stops and talks to the fan and says, what's your name? Gets this information, blah, blah, blah. And then he turns to his entourage and says, ban this guy pretty much. And
you think I should sell the team?
Yeah.
You think I should sell the team?
What an embarrassing
You like
look.
to watch games from home?
Dude, you're at what? Possibly a billionaire? Yeah. And one of the biggest franchises in sports.
Him and Kevin Durant deserve each other.
It's unbelievable. He's
two snakes in the grass.
I don't know, man. I think he's going to hurt their market as far as free agents. So we'll see how that. But I just wanted to throw that in there. That guy is such a douchebag, man.
Fuck it, James Dolan. Hold this L.
Why not? Why not?
I want to thank my co-host big time, Eddie Ortiz, Trevor Twidwell, for doing this with me, man. This has been great. It's always easier to have guys on here that that match the passion that I have, that want to do this just like I do. And I honestly would not want to do it if it was just me. So thank you guys so much for always doing this with me every week. I want to thank our special guest, Shaggy Shane Williams. Motherfucking Shane. That guy, I love to do. I can't express it enough. Go follow him, please, guys. One of the I'll just say it, the best Chiefs fan around. So just go ahead and follow him, guys. Thank you so much, Shane, for coming on the show. Our producer, Clay Wendler, thank you so much for everything you do with our audio side, man. Your value is immense, man. Thank you so much. And I also want to thank my little brother, Brandon Twidwell, for being here tonight. He didn't have anything to say on the mics tonight per se, but he's been doing a lot of our photography. So when you see the new photos that come out on our Instagram, on our Twitter account, you will know who actually took those photos.
You will find out that we do the podcast naked.
Yeah, so you will see that we are actually nude. And I'm going to be honest with you, most of the angles are not good.
Visuals.
Get ready.
Especially Eddie and I. I feel so, you know what? In fact, don't even look at our pictures. Maybe look at some of Trev's, but I'm just letting you know right now, unless you're chubby chasers, don't look at us.
Just picture me as a gummy bear.
I'm so sorry, Brandon, that you had to see.
Definitely use the zoom effect.
Yeah, Brandon's going to edit him a little bit and give us some girth to certain areas and thin us out in others. So in that, guys, thank you so much for listening to us. It means the world. We're going to be doing this every Friday night. And that, for Eddie Ortiz, for Trevor Twidwell, for Shaggy Shane, Clay Wendler, my brother Brandon. Guys, we out of this bitch.
See y'all
later.
We're going to get out of this bitch. Thank you so much for listening, guys.
See y'all.
You are tuned into The Spoke.
I might actually stick around for a little bit.